The Throne of the Mechas. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26, Brave and Fearless. After listening to Li Kuan's words, Xia Xingchen felt that a new world was opening up to her. To be honest, Xia Xingchen had never thought about what Li Kuan said. After using endocrine to transform her body, Xia Xingchen felt an unprecedented sense of power, as if she was not afraid of anything and could accomplish anything. Xingchen, you have to remember that humans are best at the brain, not the body. In fact, there have always been people who have been deceived by this false sense of power and have embarked on a path of no return. Li Kuan sighed and said, "False sense of power?" Xia Xingchen asked. "That's right. It's a false sense of power. Even if you use endocrine to improve your body, human power always has its limits. This limit cannot be surpassed. It is something engraved in the genes. Humans are not a race with well-developed bodies. However, some people fantasize about surpassing the limits of their human body, so they begin to transform their bodies more frantically, and even transform themselves into cyborgs." Li Kuan said, "There are no cyborgs on Manastar, because the ores here have radiation and precision instruments cannot operate normally. But there are many on other planets. When you go out in the future, you must be careful of such people. They are a group of lunatics." "I know, Uncle Li." Xia Xingchen remembered it silently in his heart. Li Kuan walked over and patted the mecha. "This mecha is the result of human wisdom and technology. Although we don't have strong bodies, we have smart brains. We can use tools. Whether it's a wooden stick in the hands of primitive people or this mecha, they are all tools. It is with such powerful tools that we humans can roam the stars." Mecha fighting has a long history. In the past, mecha fighting was even regarded as a game, because the mecha was operated using levers and keyboards. Whoever had faster hand speed would drive the mecha more quickly. However, times are different now, and hand speed is too slow after all. In mecha fighting, what is being tested is brain speed and mental strength level. Li Kuan continued, "Because of the existence of the mental sensing device, the actions that appear in your brain will be truly performed by the mecha. This requires the mecha master to have two abilities. The first is concentration. After all, the human brain is full of miscellaneous things. When you are operating a mecha, if your mind is anchored, God knows what strange postures the mecha will make. The second is to be sharp-minded and fast. You must strike first before others react." Li Kuan threw a jab fiercely, steady, accurate, and ruthless. "This is the purpose of mecha fighting. Don't be confused and learn those ancient martial arts and kung fu. Those skills can be used by the human body, but they cannot be used in mecha fighting. Because the mecha is just a tool, not a real body." "Uncle Li, I don't quite understand. I think those martial arts skills should still be useful," Xia Xingchen said, scratching his head. "Since you don't believe it, let's try it." Li Kuan pointed to two capsule-shaped machines. "This is a virtual fighting machine, which can realize virtual reality, and is not much different from real mecha fighting." Xia Xingchen walked to the large silver-white capsule, gently stroked its streamlined appearance with his palm, and felt a chill. Virtual reality is this kind of machine that has made countless people addicted. Some people even committed suicide after waking up, because they couldn't tell whether it was reality or illusion. Xia Xingchen's family had no money and had never been exposed to virtual reality. Xia Xingchen followed Li Kuan's instructions and lay in the capsule with two electrodes attached to his temples. Hypnotic gas was sprayed out of the capsule, and Xia Xingchen's eyes went dark, and he fell asleep. Soon, Xia Xingchen opened his eyes and found himself transformed into a mecha, standing in a white world. Li Kuan stood opposite, with the same model of mecha as himself, but different colors. Xia Xingchen's was black and Li Kuan's was white. "Xingchen, our mecha models are exactly the same, and the strength and speed are both 5. This time, you can attack with all your strength," Li Kuan said. "Okay." Xia Xingchen was eager to try. Taking advantage of Li Kuan's unpreparedness, Xia Xingchen suddenly stepped forward and punched Li Kuan in the chest. The power of the mecha is tens of millions times that of human flesh, and its power is certainly extraordinary. Li Quan did not dodge, but just slightly turned sideways and punched Xia Xingchen in the chest at the same time. Boom. Li Quan's entire shoulder was smashed by Xia Xingchen's punch, and Xia Xingchen's cockpit was blown up. Xia Xingchen lost. After a dizzy feeling, Xia Xingchen's mecha recovered and stood in front of Li Quan. Xia Xingchen complained, "Uncle Li, why are you fighting so fiercely? Why don't you dodge?" Li Quan smiled, "Why should I dodge? If you are holding a long sword, are you afraid that the long sword will collide with other weapons, so you keep dodging? Then you will definitely lose." "I understand, Uncle Li." Xia Xingchen suddenly realized, although our spirit is controlling the mecha is still a tool. Even if the mecha is broken, we can replace it with another one, as long as the people are safe. "That's right." Li Quan smiled. However, novices often make the same mistake, that is, fear. Novices always treat the mecha as their own body and subconsciously dodge those non-lethal attacks. The final result is only defeat. And the martial arts you mentioned. These skills have been passed down for thousands of years, and of course they have their own reasons. However, the basis of these martial arts is the force generating skills, based on the human muscle reaction. Although the mecha is humanoid, it has no muscles, so I say martial arts is useless. Xia Xingchen understood. No wonder so many people watch mecha fighting. Because, in this kind of fighting competition, fists are thrown to the flesh, and injuries are exchanged for injuries. Of course, it looks very violent and exciting, so the rich are flocking to it. If it is a martial arts competition, it will be so-so and lukewarm, and it will seem meaningless. Although Li Quan did not teach Xia Xingchen any moves or techniques, his words just now made Xia Xingchen suddenly enlightened. The core of mecha fighting, in addition to the performance of the mecha and the mental strength of the mecha master, there is another extremely important point, which is to overcome the fear in the heart, be brave and fearless, dare to fight hard, and dare to exchange injuries for injuries. Okay, Xingchen, here are the tickets. Remember to come and watch my game tomorrow. And if you gamble, remember to bet on me to win. Li Quan handed Xia Xingchen a ticket and said with a smile, "I know, Uncle Li." Xia Xingchen said with a smile, "I still need to check the performance of the mecha. If you can't wait, go back first." Li Quan said. Chapter 27 Overlord Contract. Li Quan sent Xia Xingchen out of the dome stadium. Looking at the boy's back as he left, a gratified smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. "Xingchen, I didn't expect you to have such a high level of understanding. Uncle Li is optimistic about you." Li Quan returned to the mecha training room and sat in the cockpit of the Blue God of War. He turned on all the instruments first. After confirming that all the values were normal, he felt relieved. Before tomorrow's game, the boss will send a special mecha maintenance technician to check. However, Li Quan felt that it would be more reassuring to check it himself. After getting off the mecha, Li Quan obviously felt very tired. Time is not forgiving. I'm old, and mecha fighting, a sport for young people, is no longer suitable for me. After tomorrow's game, I should retire. Li Quan sighed and secretly decided in his heart that he must play well in tomorrow's farewell game. Li Quan walked out of the gym and was about to get in the car to go home. Suddenly, two men in black suits came over and knocked on his car window. "Are you Tiger Li Quan?" Tiger is Li Quan's nickname. Everyone who participates in mecha fighting must have a nickname. Li Quan looked the visitor up and down and felt that he was not friendly, so he nodded and said, "I am." "Get in the car, let's talk slowly." The man in the suit pointed to a hovercraft parked next to him. "I'm not going." "What can we talk about?" "We can talk here." Li Quan was very vigilant. "It's not up to you." The man in the suit opened his clothes, revealing a pistol. Li Quan could only follow the two men in the suit into the car. The man in the suit threw a piece of paper to Li Quan. "This is tomorrow's schedule. Have you seen it?" Li Quan looked down and saw that it was indeed tomorrow's schedule. He was surprised and said, "This schedule is confidential. Where did you get it from?" "Don't worry about it. We naturally have channels." The man in the suit pointed at Li Quan's name. "Do you know who your opponent tomorrow is?" Li Quan took a look and found that his opponent tomorrow was a guy named Caillou. Caillou was quite crazy to use this ancient Chinese god as his nickname. Li Quan had indeed heard of the name Caillou. Caillou is a newcomer. He has been in mecha fighting for less than 2 months and has only played 9 games. He is a rising star. However, no one knows how old Caillou is, not even his gender or age. It's Caillou. Li Quan whispered. He is a very strong newcomer. I will take him seriously. You want to lose? The man in the suit shook his head. Lose? Li Quan was stunned for a moment and then quickly reacted. Are you from the peripheral casino? Most of the victories in mecha fighting are real fights, but some are controlled by the peripheral casinos and are fake matches. Li Quan didn't expect that one day he would actually meet someone from the peripheral casino. I'm sorry, I don't play fake games. Li Quan said immediately. Tomorrow is my last game. I'm not only responsible for the boss, but also for myself. We are not from the peripheral casino. The man in the suit smiled and lit a cigarette. We are not afraid of you knowing. We are young Master Caillou's people. Young Master Caillou's identity is a nobleman. He comes to play mecha combat simply for fun. Therefore, we must ensure that the young master has fun and has a good time. Therefore, he cannot lose. You really think highly of me? Maybe I'm not Caillou's opponent? Li Quan said coldly. I have seen the video of Caillou's game. Although he is a newcomer, he is a very good player. Why can't we have a real fight? What are you talking about? Another man in a suit lost his patience and threw a stack of money to Li Quan. This money is for you to lose. A small-minded dares to complain. You don't know the identity of our young master, otherwise you would be scared to death. I'm sorry, I'm really not interested in knowing. Li Quan said indifferently. Even if your master is a prince or princess of the empire, I won't play a fake game. You really don't want to drink toasts, but drink punishment wine. The man in the suit smiled coldly and suddenly fired a gun, and the tranquilizer bullet hit Li Quan's body. The next morning, Xia Xingchen received news that Li Quan had an accident last night and was now lying in the hospital. Xia Xingchen hurried to the hospital to visit Li Quan. On the hospital bed, Li Quan was in a coma with tubes inserted into his body and a respirator. Xia Xingchen put down the fruit in his hand, comforted Aunt Li a few words, and hurried to ask the doctor how Li Quan's condition was. His condition is not optimistic. The doctor, wearing a white coat and black framed glasses, said in a low voice, he has suffered a severe brain injury and can't wake up for the time being. Even if he wakes up, he can't participate in mecha combat. How could this happen? Xia Xingchen was stunned. Xia Xingchen returned to the ward woodenly, not knowing how to start to tell Aunt Li the bad news. However, as soon as Xia Xingchen walked to the entrance of the ward, he saw a fat man wearing a high-end suit, with a gold watch and a gold chain on his wrist, walking into the ward with a haughty attitude, surrounded by 2 bodyguards. These bad guys, who hurt Uncle Li so badly, dare to show up. Xia Xingchen was very angry, rushed into the ward, blocked Uncle Li and Aunt Li, and shouted, what do you want to do? Come to me. The fat man was stunned and looked at Xia Xingchen in surprise. Aunt Li hurriedly explained, Xingchen, this is your Uncle Li's boss, Boss Al. He heard that your Uncle Li was injured and came to see him specially. Xia Xingchen misunderstood that she had wronged a good man and hurriedly apologized to Boss Zhao and asked him to sit down. Boss Zhao hooked his finger and immediately a bodyguard put the fruit basket on the bedside table, and then he took out a contract and handed it to Aunt Li. Aunt Li took the contract and looked at it. Her face suddenly changed and it was as white as a piece of paper. Xia Xingchen was surprised and asked, Aunt Li, what's wrong? What is this? The contract signed by Li Quan and me. Boss Zhao smiled and turned to ask Aunt Li, there are his signature and handprints on it, right? Aunt Li started crying. Li Quan is in a coma now, and we don't know whether he is alive or dead. We are left with only an orphan and a widow, and we can't afford the penalty for breach of contract. Penalty for breach of contract? Xia Xingchen was slightly startled and hurriedly took the contract from Aunt Li's hand. After a careful look, he was immediately furious. The contract clearly stated that if Tiger Li Quan breached the contract when participating in the mecha combat, he would need to pay a penalty of 10 million star coins. This is an overlord contract. Boss Zhao, this contract is too much. The penalty for breach of contract is actually 10 million. What's more, my Uncle Lee didn't want to participate, but was framed by someone. Xia Xingchen looked up and said, "Is 10 million a lot?" Boss Zhao snapped his fingers. "If Li Quan participates in this competition, I can earn more. Who will be responsible for this loss?" "Boss Zhao, you are very powerful. You can find another person to participate," Xia Xingchen whispered. "That's easy to say." Boss Zhao sneered. "I don't know who Li Quan offended. No one I know who can drive a mecha is willing to compete on his behalf. It's easy for you to talk. If you help Li Quan find someone to participate in the competition, I won't count him as a breach of contract." Boss Zhao was sure that Xia Xingchen, a student, could not find a suitable person to participate in the mecha fight. "I'll go," Xia Xingchen said lightly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Before the War. You? Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Boss Zhao seemed to have heard the biggest joke in the universe, and laughed with his mouth wide open. "If you want to drive this blue war god, you must have a minimum mental power of level 9. You are a little kid, and your mental power of level 5 is the best. You still want to drive a military mecha? You are too arrogant." Boss Zhao laughed. "What if I tell you that I can do it?" Xia Xingchen stared at Boss Zhao and said seriously, Although Xia Xingchen is just a high school boy, because his mental power level is higher than that of ordinary people, his temperament is naturally different from that of ordinary people, and he also has a special aura. Boss Zhao was shocked by his aura. After reaching level 7, not only did Xia Xingchen's body get strengthened, but his temperament was also sublimated imperceptibly. His eyes were like a sharp sword, piercing Boss Zhao's heart. "Why don't you try? If you can drive the blue god of war, you will fight. If you can't, you and Li Quan must compensate me 20 million star coins." Boss Zhao is indeed a profiteer, and he immediately started to think of something crooked. "That's it, I'll go right away." Xia Xingchen was furious. He wanted to beat up this profiteer. "Don't worry, what if you default on the debt? Sign the contract first." Boss Zhao smiled coldly, his eyes rolling in his eye sockets, obviously thinking of something. "I default on the debt." Xia Xingchen suppressed his anger and really wanted to beat up Boss Zhao, but seeing the burly bodyguards around him, and Aunt Lee with tears on her face, he could only suppress his anger and nodded slightly. Boss Zhao quickly asked his men to draft a contract, and asked them to hand it to Xia Xingchen. "What, if I win, you will give me 1 million star coins as a reward, and if I lose, I have to compensate you 20 million star coins. How can this make sense?" Xia Xingchen read the terms of the contract, and was very angry. "How do I know if you are good enough? If you lose, I have to pay to repair the mecha. Stop talking nonsense. Either sign the contract and go test the mecha, or take out 10 million star coins now." Boss Zhao was very pleased with himself. He knew what happened to Li Quan, and knew that Caillou was someone he couldn't afford to offend. He was sure to lose the game. However, he still wanted to take the opportunity to cheat Xia Xingchen again. Xia Xingchen had no choice. It was really a penny that made a hero fall. But for the sake of Li Quan's family, Xia Xingchen gritted his teeth and signed the contract. "Good young man with courage." Boss Zhao gave a thumbs up, waved his hand and said, "Come with me." Xia Xingchen followed Boss Zhao to the training ground. A steel cable hangs above the cockpit of the mecha, and at the bottom of the steel cable is a pedal. There are 2 electric buttons on the steel cable 1.5 meters away from the pedal. Xia Xingchen stepped on the pedal with one foot and pressed the rising button with his right hand. The steel cable slowly rose and brought him to the cockpit 3 or 4 meters above the ground. Xia Xingchen turned over and sat in the cockpit. The interior of the Blue Airs is different from that of the Black Duke mecha. There is no induction headband, which is a military product and will be recycled when the mecha is retired. Instead, there is an induction helmet with wires of various colors plugged into it. This is a low-end copycat version of the induction headband. There are also a few auxiliary devices such as joysticks, keyboards, pedals, etc. in the cockpit of the Blue Airs. This is because driving a mecha consumes a lot of mental power, which restricts the endurance of the mecha. If it is for patrol, strategic transfer and other tasks, using mental power to control it all the time will make people very tired, so many military mechas are equipped with some auxiliary operating systems. Xia Xingchen adjusted the seat, fastened the seat belt, and slowly put on the induction helmet. Beep. The electronic sound sounded, the screen in front of him lit up, and various indicator lights lit up one after another. Xia Xingchen felt that the crystal pyramid in his brain was spinning rapidly, releasing a lot of mental power, and he felt that his body was slowly merging with the mecha. But the engine of the mecha began to turn, and the red indicator light on the mecha's eyes also lit up. Boss Zhao was shocked. Move, how is it possible? But the reality was in front of him, and he had to admit it. However, his brain was running at high speed in an instant, and countless crooked ideas came up again. Even if this kid can drive the mecha, it's very reluctant, and the opponent is very strong. He will definitely lose, so I can bet all my wealth on him losing, and then ask him for compensation. Haha, I can also apply for a life and death battle. If he dies, the high insurance money will be mine. That's it. Normally, mecha fighting competitions do not allow attacks on the cockpit, which greatly affects the viewing experience of the competition. So the organizers of the competition launched a life and death battle. As long as a life and death battle contract is signed, both parties can use any means of attack to attack any part of the mecha without surrender until one party dies. The winner's prize is 5 times that of a normal competition, and those who die in the battle will also receive tens of millions of insurance compensation. The dome building was bustling with people, with more than 60,000 spectators gathered here. Most of them were citizens of the Galactic Empire. Minors were not qualified and had no money to watch the game. There was no television or online broadcast of the mecha fighting competition, so the ticket price was so valuable. The cheapest ticket cost 100,000 star coins each, and the most expensive ticket cost 2 million each. There will be a total of 8 games tonight, and the last one is a life and death battle. At this time, in the most luxurious private room in the venue, a middle-aged man in military uniform was sitting on the sofa. He had blonde hair, blue eyes, deep eyes, and a very stiff expression on his face, making it difficult to see what he was thinking. Manastar Executive Officer Yiming and Manastar First Fleet Major General Commander Edward were accompanying him with flattering faces. The man's name was von Klosch, a lieutenant general of the Empire and a nobleman. He was the commander of the 1st Squadron of the Empire's 3rd Fleet. Their family was a military family. From the time when humans did not leave the Earth until now, almost all members of the family were soldiers, and there were many generals. This time he was ordered to lead 50 warships to welcome the little princess and escort her back to the capital Starshine. Edward felt that this was an opportunity and tried desperately to curry favor with von Klosch and take this opportunity to climb up a step. After all, it was difficult to get promoted from his current position. Although the Archon Yiming had the final say on Manastar, he was just a watchdog of the Tang Dynasty group. He was old, but he hoped that his son could have a good future, get a noble status, and bring honor to the family. Unfortunately, von Klosch was a very conservative person. He rejected all invitations except for a welcoming banquet. The two men's hair turned white with worry. After all, they were not afraid of leaders sticking to principles, but they were afraid of leaders having no hobbies. Later, Edward learned that the general was actually an A-level mecha master with outstanding military exploits, so he invited him to watch the mecha fighting competition. In the core planets of the Galactic Empire, such competitions in which mechas directly confronted real people were considered barbaric and were prohibited. Mecha masters in those places could only compete through large optical computers and simulators. Such competitions lacked authenticity and a thrilling feeling, and it was difficult for the players to exert their full strength. Only in remote places like Manastar could there be such real-life mecha fighting competitions. Von Klosch became interested when he heard about this and decided to come and see the excitement. Chapter 29, Dead End. The first 7 matches were very lively, but that was just lively. The modified mechas were beyond recognition. The mecha operations were dull in the eyes of professionals, and some mecha masters were just playing soy sauce. Feng Cloche almost fell asleep while sitting there. General Cloche, how was the game? Very exciting, right? Yi Ming asked. Nothing good, too boring. Feng Cloche didn't even want to say anything extra. The next game is a life and death battle. One of the players is my son. He is only 16 years old, and he is already a level 9 psychic. He is very interested and talented in mecha operation. I plan to let him take the mecha soldier exam as soon as he breaks through. Strive to join the army as soon as possible. Yi Ming seized every opportunity to promote his son. Well, I know. General Cloche nodded slightly, and every move was maintained with the style of an aristocrat. To be honest, General Cloche looked down on Yi Ming from the bottom of his heart. Although Yi Ming was the planetary governor, a senior official of the empire, and the local emperor of this border planet. However, in General Cloche's opinion, Yi Ming was just an upstart and could not be compared with a true noble like him. Next, a life and death battle will begin, with Caillou, who has recently emerged and won 9 games and 9 wins, against Li Quan, who has won 28 games and 30 wins. Start quickly, kill him, start quickly. The atmosphere on the field instantly reached its peak, and countless spectators held pieces of paper in their hands, which were all betting tickets. They screamed at the top of their lungs, as if they had turned into barbarians. The whole field was full of hormones, and even a calm person like General Cloche felt a little excited. That Caillou is my son, who won 9 games and 9 wins. Even Yi Ming clenched his fists tightly, and there was a faint excitement in his heart. Oh, no, Li Quan had a car accident yesterday, and is still in a coma. Today, Xia Xingchen will replace him. He is 16 years old and still a student. The live broadcast corrected another piece of news. At this time, Xia Xingchen's photo and information appeared on the big screen at the scene. You bunch of damn liars, I bet on Li Quan, my 20 million. Kill this miner, I want to see him turned into meat paste. The whole scene was in chaos, with people cheering, cursing, and looking for death. Every time a fighting match is held, the scale of betting is very large. Since Li Quan has been in the mecha fighting circle for a long time, many people bet on him to win. But this temporary replacement is a complete rookie, and many people collapsed. They invested most of their wealth in it, and some people borrowed money to bet. After the game, they will become miners. Xia Xingchen sat on the blue god of war, and walked towards the stadium through the dedicated passage of the mecha hangar. When he heard the outside broadcast saying that this match was a life and death fight, he was completely stunned. He called Boss Zhao through the pager and questioned him about the life and death fight. What did you say? It's too noisy, and I can't hear it clearly. Boss Zhao laughed in his heart and turned off the pager. He pretended to be a contestant and submitted an application for a life and death battle and gave Xia Xingchen's information to his opponent, who also agreed to the life and death battle. The mecha finally came to the end of the passage, and the door slowly opened. Xia Xingchen sat in the cockpit and saw the opponent's mecha. This is a 6-meter high, powerful mecha. The armor of the mecha looks very thick and flashes with a metallic texture. The legs and arms are very thick, and it is a mecha with strong explosive power. The mecha has a rectangular alloy shield in its left hand, with a spike in the center of the shield. It holds an alloy battle axe in its right hand. The engine of the mecha roars, like a beast ready to tear its prey apart at any time. At this time, someone sent a communication application to the mecha's public communication channel. He clicked to connect, and the image of Masked Man appeared on the communicator screen. Boy, I didn't expect you to be so lucky. Zhang Liang couldn't kill you, but your luck has come to an end. I will send you to hell now. Hearing this voice, Xia Xingchen's pupils suddenly dilated. Yi Kun, you are such a shameless villain. You actually ordered someone to kill me. I will not let you go. Xia Xingchen said angrily. Haha, a miner is so arrogant. Prepare to die. Yi Kun grinned and pushed the G lever with both hands, driving the mecha to rush up. He swung his mecha axe and chopped it down at the head of the blue war god. The blue war god held the axe with the alloy sword in his right hand. The axe was very powerful, and the body of the blue war god was tilted backwards. Yi Kun took the opportunity to attack. The engine instantly burst out with maximum power. The left hand shield hit the blue war god hard. The blue war god lost his center of gravity and was knocked to the ground by a huge force. Good beautiful fight, look how great my son is. In the luxurious private room, Yiming jumped up with excitement with a smile on his face. This is the military mecha Animisha, a product of Wamaru Arms Co Limited. The pure military version is disguised as a civilian mecha. Haha, it's really awesome. Von Klosch saw through the trick at a glance, and his bland words extinguished Yiming's enthusiasm. The Oni warrior driven by Yi Kun is an absolutely high-end product among the general-purpose mechas of the army. It is the mecha with the strongest melee ability among general-purpose mechas, with strength 13, agility 9, and armor 12. The other contestants dismantled the engines and weapon systems of the military mechas, and replaced them with civilian equipment. However, the military equipment on Yi Kun's Oni warrior was not dismantled at all, but some armor was welded in some places for camouflage. Originally, the civilians were prohibited from using military mechas that had not been modified for civilian use, but Yi Kun's father was a local emperor on Mandastar. Who would care? Who would dare to care? Of course, this little trick could not be hidden from General Klosch's eyes. However, in General Klosch's view, Yiming's behavior was also excusable. After all, who can not love his own son? It's a pity for the young contestant on the opposite side. General Klosch has begun to mourn for Xia Xingchen in his heart. In his opinion, Xia Xingchen would never win. Blue War God was lying on the ground with his face up, and the axe of the Ghost Warrior was aimed at the cockpit of Blue War God. Xia Xingchen concentrated his mind, dodged it with a flash. The Ghost Warrior followed up with a kick, and Blue War God was kicked to the ground again. The violent vibration of the mecha made Xia Xingchen feel that his internal organs had moved. He gritted his teeth and stepped hard on the power pedal. The engine of Blue War God was running at high speed. The mecha instantly popped forward at high speed, dodging the axe of the Ghost Warrior and pulling away. Beep, beep. Alarm. The overall armor integrity rate of the mecha is only 30%, and the energy is 80%. It can still be used for 5 minutes. A display of the mecha flashed a yellow alarm message, and the feedback was not good. No, the mecha can't hold on if it continues like this. We must fight back. If we take such a blow again, the mecha will fall apart. Thinking of this, Blue War God raised the alloy sword and launched an attack on the Ghost Warrior. However, Yi Kun had rich combat experience, and his mecha had great advantages in strength and speed. Every attack of Blue War God was blocked by him calmly. Moreover, the powerful force of the Ghost Warrior's mecha caused Blue War God to stiffen every time he collided, and Yi Kun took advantage of this stiffness to launch a more violent attack. 2 minutes later, the alarm turned red. Armor integrity rate 15%, energy remaining 10%, left arm damaged, integrity rate 78%, shoulder damaged, integrity rate 62%. The integrity rate of mecha components is an important indicator. When the integrity rate is reduced to 50%, the performance of the mecha components will be lost by half. If the integrity rate drops to 0, it means that the component has completely lost its function. What to do? Xia Xingchen thought quickly. His mecha power was at a disadvantage, and his speed was not as fast as others. In the previous battle, the Ghost Warrior was also chopped by the alloy sword several times, but only a few white marks were cut. Only 10% of the remaining energy was left, and he could only make one last blow. However, how to hit the opponent's vital point was the most difficult. Perhaps, his mental power was the only and last chance. Haha, you are at the end of the road, you ant, you pariah. I don't want to play with you now, let me send you to hell. Chapter 30, Turning Defeat into Victory. The power of the Oni warrior instantly increased to the maximum, the engine roared, and the legs pushed the ground hard. The armor plate used for camouflage on the back of the body fell off, revealing 2 thrusters that had been turned to the maximum power. This was standard military equipment. The speed of the Oni warrior instantly reached its peak. At this time, the crystal pyramid in Xia Xingchen's mind was spinning at high speed, and a huge mental force surged into the body, and the surroundings were empty. In his eyes, the attack of the Oni warrior mecha seemed to be slowed down. The Blue War God raised his left arm, and the rounder law shield shot at the Oni warrior like a flying disc. The Oni warrior raised his left hand shield, and with a loud clang, the alloy shield was knocked away, and hit the energy shield on the side of the field. At this time, the Oni warrior's speed was not affected at all, and the sharp axe chopped down with an indomitable momentum. Ah! Hiss. The audience at the scene held their breath, and time seemed to freeze. Everyone thought that the Blue War God was dead. When the battle axe was about half a meter away from the head of Blue War God moved, and almost everyone saw that Blue War God was chopped down. But there was nothing but air under the axe. It was just a residual image. It turned out that at this moment, the Blue War God mecha stepped to the left, and the battle axe almost brushed the body and fell down. At this time, Blue War God's legs were curled up. Xia Xingchen stepped on the power pedal to the bottom, and the mental power was concentrated on the legs of the mecha, which bounced up like a spring. Blue War God soared into the air, and flew 7 or 8 meters high. In mid-air, Blue War God held the alloy sword with both hands, and the tip of the sword was tilted downward. The weight of the entire mecha was concentrated on the alloy sword. The mental power filled the arms of the mecha, and stabbed at the seam between the neck and back armor of the ghost warrior. Because the joints, neck and other parts of the mecha need to rotate, these positions cannot be fully covered by the armor. But the ghost warrior is protected by the back thruster at this position, and the horizontal and vertical attacks are blocked by the thruster. Only by attacking this gap diagonally from above and downwards can it cause damage to the ghost warrior. However, in actual combat, attacking from this angle is almost an impossible task. The ghost warrior cannot stay where you are and wait for you to jump on top of his head and stab him. The alloy sword more than 2 meters long penetrated the ghost warrior, and the tip of the sword extended from the cockpit in front of the ghost warrior. The ghost warrior's engine made a crackling noise, a burst of black smoke came out, and the mecha was completely paralyzed. At this time, the power of the Blue God of War was completely exhausted, and the entire body was hanging on the ghost warrior, motionless. This dramatic scene made the whole venue silent. There were 2 large screens above the venue, connected to the camera heads inside the mecha. The audience saw that Xia Xingchen's head tilted and collapsed on the seat. The battle just now exhausted his physical and mental strength, and he had lost consciousness. And the cockpit screen of Caillou was first bloody, then a burst of fire, and only a snowflake was left on the display. A few seconds later, Caillou's head on the big screen dimmed, and a red death popped up on it, while a green one appeared on Xia Xingchen's head. It turned out that the main control computer of the arena was connected to the life detection system in the cockpits of the 2 mechas. Caillou died, and was judged to have lost the life and death battle. Boom. The venue exploded completely, and this result shocked everyone's nerves. Haha, I didn't lose. I don't have to be a miner anymore, I'm rich. I'm rich. Ah. You miner, bitch, I'm going to kill you. My money. You, my, money. Call an ambulance quickly. Someone has a heart attack. I have one here too. Dead. In the luxurious private room, Edward's eyes were as big as eggs, and he was completely dumbfounded. My son. Yiming screamed and fainted. The bodyguard standing behind him ran over to rescue him. But, you fought very well. Lieutenant General von Cross clapped his hands. What a wonderful battle. This kid is a natural warrior, with amazing fighting talent. This is the first time he has laughed since arriving at Manastar. Von Klosch knew that, although he was a mecha master, at the same age, although his mental power barely reached level 15 with the help of various top mental potions and meditation instruments of his family, he could not make such calm judgments and such extremely difficult movements under the same conditions. Edward. Von Klosch shouted. Here, General. Edward finally reacted from his shock. This kid is a talent. I'm optimistic about him. You go and take him, his relatives and friends to my flagship, and protect them well. If something goes wrong, you should not be a major general anymore. Don't let me down. Von Klosch looked at Edward meaningfully, got up and left. Yes, General, I promise to complete the task. Edward promised, but he was muttering in his heart, I'm sorry, Brother Yi. Although you have been filial to me a lot, and it is also miserable to lose your son, I'm sorry for the future of this general. He quickly assigned the tasks, and left the private room. 10 minutes later, Yiming slowly woke up. Oh, my son. Come quickly, arrest that little bastard and his whole family. I will peel their skins myself, my poor son. An hour later, his men came back with bruised faces and noses. Report. Report to Lord Yi that Xia Xingchen and his family have been protected by the military and taken to Lord von Cross's flagship. They said that this kid is a soldier and is protected by the military. We wanted to rob him, so they sent out Mechas. A dozen police Mechas were all destroyed, and more than a dozen people died. This is too much. Yi Ming spit out a mouthful of blood and fainted again. 3 days later, Xia Xingchen woke up and found himself lying in a wood with various tubes inserted into his body and connected to various medical instruments. At this time, he was sore all over, without any strength, and a strong feeling of hunger came over him. Oh, the patient is awake. A little nurse saw him wake up and immediately ran out to call for help. Not long after, the nurse came with a doctor and a woman, and the woman turned out to be Aunt Lee. Aunt Lee, how are my father and Uncle Lee? He only then remembered that he had killed Yi Kun, but the thought of the crazy revenge he might face gave him a headache. Xingchen, after you won the game, a group of soldiers came to our house and took my Uncle Lee and me to the warship. Your father was also brought here and is now receiving treatment in the biomedical warehouse. Aunt Lee said. What happened to my father? What kind of injury did he suffer? Xia Xingchen panicked when he heard that his father was receiving treatment. Hey, it's my fault for not explaining it clearly. They are using cell cloning technology to repair your father's broken leg. It is said that it was ordered by the fleet commander, General Klosh. It's my fault for not explaining it clearly. Aunt Lee explained quickly. So that's how it is. I was scared to death. Chapter 31 Joining the Army. The doctor gave him a comprehensive physical examination, and he had recovered from the mental overdraft. Everything is normal, you should rest well and eat properly. You will be cured the day after tomorrow, and the general will see you then. The doctor ordered. Thank you, doctor, you have worked hard. Xia Xingchen replied politely. 2 days later, in the captain's office of the Thor's Hammer space carrier, Xia Xingchen was wearing a blue military uniform without a military rank, and stood straight. Lieutenant General von Klosch sat behind the desk. How long did you learn to drive a mecha before participating in the mecha fighting competition? Von Klosch asked. Report to the general. That was my second time driving a mecha, and my first time driving a military mecha. I only learned basic theories in school before. Xia Xingchen replied. Von Klosch was completely shocked. It was unbelievable that a person with a mental power of only level 10 and who had only touched a mecha twice could make such a move. Just yesterday, when the doctor gave him the last physical examination, he tested his mental power and it had reached level 10, which was the standard for taking the D-level mecha master exam. Xia Xingchen found that every time he used up his mental power level would grow by leaps and bounds, and now he has even risen 3 levels. However, he dared not tell anyone about this, as it was his biggest secret, fearing that someone would find out and capture him for dissection. Are you willing to become a soldier of the Galactic Empire? I am, General, and this has always been my dream. What is your reason for wanting to join the army? Asked von Klosch. General, I'm a miner, and so is my father. He broke his leg to support me. If I don't seek change, one day we will starve to death. Or die in a mine accident, or die in the mouth of a ferocious beast, or one day we will make those nobles unhappy and crush us to death like a stink bug. Therefore, I can only keep getting stronger, join the army, and use my life to gain military merit and a citizen status. Only in this way can I leave Manastar, make money, and treat my father's illness. At this point, he bowed deeply. Thank you, General, for rescuing and treating my father. My life is yours from now on. Okay, Soldier Xia Xingchen, from today on, you are a member of the 1st Squadron of the 3rd Fleet of my Galaxy Fleet. Yes, General. Xia Xingchen put his legs together and saluted. Okay, follow me. As he said that, von Cross took Xia Xingchen for a stroll on the space carrier Thor's Hammer. Our Galactic Empire has 7 fleets, but 9 heavy space carriers. The 1st fleet has 2 heavy space carriers, and another one is directly under the royal family. The other fleets each have one as a flagship. The Thor's Hammer is one of them, and it is the flagship of our 3rd fleet. The ship has a total of more than 20,000 regular personnel, and can carry 60,000 people at full strength. It is equipped with 4 small attack ships, 24 Planeta relanding ships, 1000 combat mechas, and 2000 fighters of various types. Now is not wartime, so it is not fully staffed. He introduced all the way as he walked, and the members of the ship saluted after seeing the general. An hour later, they only visited a small part of the ship. Then they returned to the captain's office again. I will arrange your father and friends for you. Now, you have two choices. First, stay on the Thor's hammer and start as a crew member. At the beginning, you are an officer, and you will be promoted step by step. You may become a captain or something in the future. The second way is that I will throw you to an outpost in a remote area, and you will start from a soldier at the bottom. It's very dangerous there. There are always battles. You may die in the battle, or you may stay there for decades in obscurity, be slowly forgotten by me, and retire quietly. These are the two paths. You can choose now. Von Klausch stared into his eyes. Report to the general. I choose the second path. What's your reason? I want to keep getting stronger in battle, and become the best soldier. As for danger or remoteness, I'm not afraid. Is there any place worse than the mine under Manastar? Xia Xingchen answered firmly. Haha. Von Klausch laughed up to the sky. I didn't misjudge you. I really didn't misjudge you. I respect your choice, soldier, and I hope you can give me another surprise when you see me next time. Yes, general, as you wish. Xia Xingchen saluted again. A month later, after 3 interstellar jumps, the fleet finally arrived at the capital starfield. The traffic here is busy. The first and second fleets of the Galactic Empire are stationed here, and the public security is very good. At this time, a small spaceship with the royal emblem left the fleet and flew to the capital star Otaquia. 5 days later, after another interstellar jump, the fleet finally returned to its base Lubenstar. Lubenstar is named after a famous craftsman in the legend of mankind's ancestors. He has superb skills and invented many practical tools. This Lubenstar has a diameter 4 times that of the Earth, but its mass is about the same. The atmosphere on the planet is very thin, and humans cannot survive directly, so thousands of biospheres were built on it to simulate the living environment for humans. Lubenstar has more than a dozen satellites, all of which are asteroids rich in mineral resources, so the Galactic Empire established a production and maintenance base for space battleships in the Lubenstar field. The third fleet is stationed and supplied here. Xia Xingchen and his son and Li Quan and his wife were taken to the 358th ecosphere of Lubenstar by logistics personnel. Each of their families was assigned a dormitory with a separate kitchen and bathroom. Since Xia Xingchen has joined the army, he has gotten rid of his identity as a miner and has become a citizen of the Galactic Empire. Although Xia Yu and Li Quan and his wife are still miners, they are now military dependents and are protected by the army. If Xia Xingchen has military merits in the future, it can be used to cancel their minor status. Li Quan entered the logistics department as a porter because of his excellent mecha driving skills. Xia Yu worked as a security guard at the logistics base, and Aunt Li entered the cafeteria of the logistics department. A few days later, Xia Xingchen, a private in the 3rd Fleet of the Galactic Empire, bid farewell to his father and Li Quan and his wife, and embarked on a supply ship to the Death Star field. Watchstar. Chapter 32 Watchstar. Goldfish class transport ship is the most successful cargo ship designed by humans in the space age. It looks like a goldfish, with a large belly, that can carry thousands of tons of supplies. This ship is a specially designed spaceship that has been flying in a space environment close to vacuum and does not enter the planet's atmosphere, so the wind resistance problem is not considered when designing it. As long as it can be loaded, strong, and save fuel, it will be fine. There are only 4 pilots for such a huge ship, and 2 people take turns to drive. This journey takes about a month. There are no entertainment activities on the ship. The pilots sleep except for driving the ship, and there are no entertainment facilities. Xia Xingchen locked himself in the room and began to meditate. His current mental power level has reached level 10. The mental power level of level 9 and level 10 is a gap that most people cannot cross. 90% of people in this world have never reached level 10 in their lives. The biggest difference between level 9 and level 10 is the total amount of mental power reserves. The total amount of mental power reserves of level 10 is dozens or even hundreds of times that of level 9. If the total amount of mental power of level 9 is a glass of water, the total amount of mental power of level 10 is a bathtub of water. With the increase in the total amount of mental power, the mecha pilot can drive the mecha for a longer time. Therefore, only those who have reached the 10th level of mental power will be allowed to take the qualification of D-level mecha pilot. Another point is the speed of mental power recovery. After the 10th level, the speed of mental power recovery will increase exponentially compared with the past. Xia Xingchen quickly entered the state of meditation. The crystal pyramid appeared in his mind again, and countless apes were worshipping it. After more than 10 hours, the body felt extremely hungry. Mental power stimulates the pituitary gland to secrete hormones to strengthen and transform the body, but this transformation also consumes a lot of nutrients and calories. He stood up and took a lot of space food to replenish energy. He took a look at the meditation degree meter in his hand, and the number displayed was 90. Xia Xingchen was a little surprised. After the meditation degree exceeds 50, every increase in meditation degree will cost a lot. After the meditation value reaches 50, every increase of 5 meditation points will double the growth rate of mental power. It seems that this crystal pyramid is indeed magical. Xia Xingchen is already looking forward to what kind of surprises will come if his mental power is improved by 10 levels. Ding ding. The intercom on the wall of the cabin sounded, interrupting his meditation. He stood up and answered the call. Soldier Xia Xingchen, I'm the captain of this ship. Your destination, the Watchstar space station, has arrived. You should get off the ship. I wish you all the best, and don't miss home. The captain said with a smile. Yes, thank you, sir. Xia Xingchen carried his bag and came to the Watchstar space station through the docking channel. The size of the Watchstar space station is about the same as that of the moon. Because the gravity of Watchstar is very large and there is a dense atmosphere, it is not conducive to the takeoff and landing of spacecraft. In order to facilitate the maintenance and supply of spacecraft coming and going here, humans have transformed the only satellite of Watchstar and finally built a super large space station. A day later, he followed a landing transport ship loaded with cargo into the atmosphere of Watchstar. Damn atmosphere, damn gravity. The landing spacecraft rubbed violently when passing through the atmosphere, and the entire shell was burned red. The landing ship hull shook violently. Although he had to go through such torture every 5 days, the captain couldn't help cursing. Xia Xingchen sat in the cockpit, holding the armrest in front of him tightly, and he resisted the urge to dizziness and vomit. 10 minutes later, the spacecraft finally passed through the dense atmosphere, and a planet with yellow, green, and blue colors came into view. The water coverage rate on the surface of Watchstar is only about 30%, and half of the land area is gobi and desert, but there are countless oases in it. Altitude 50,000 meters, descent speed 500 meters per second, 8 landing engines fully open, power control at 80%. Altitude 30,000, descent speed 80 meters per second, release the deceleration parachute. The captain kept giving orders, and several pilots operated skillfully. Bang, a loud noise accompanied by the violent shaking of the hull. A huge white deceleration parachute was released, and Xia Xingchen could clearly feel that the landing ship's descent speed slowed down a lot. 8 huge rocket engines spewed flames, and the landing ship finally landed slowly on the ground. The hatch opened, and several huge engineering mechas came forward to prepare to unload supplies. Xia Xingchen walked down the gangway. A military jeep was parked there. A blonde, blue-eyed healthy wheat-colored female officer leaned against the car. She saw someone coming and asked, "Private Xia Xingchen?" Xia Xingchen saluted. "Private Xia Xingchen is here to report." The female officer returned the salute. "Welcome, Private. I'm Lieutenant Freya, Deputy Captain of the Mecha Brigade of the Quicksand Base, and I've been ordered to give you a ride this time. Get in the car. The Quicksand Base is more than 3,000 kilometers away from here." The two got in the car, and Freya stepped on the accelerator, and the car drove onto a simple road, and the speed instantly soared to more than 200 kilometers per hour. The journey was long, and the two gradually became familiar with each other and started chatting. Lieutenant, the launch site is so far away from the base. Why don't you use a transport plane? Boy, you've been on the ground for so long. Didn't you feel anything unusual? No. Xia Xingchen thought there was nothing special. You really realized it late. It's gravity. The gravity of Watchstar is 2.3 g, which is 2.3 times the gravity of the Earth. That's why it has such a thick atmosphere. Under such gravity conditions, it is very difficult for aircraft to take off and land. The accident rate is very high, and fuel consumption increases exponentially. In addition, all kinds of interstellar pirates and sand bandits are rampant on Watchstar. Aircraft are very vulnerable to attacks during takeoff and landing. Only the launch site where you just landed is absolutely safe. I see. Xia Xingchen suddenly realized. Most people will not adapt to this gravity environment for the first time, and their bodies will feel very uncomfortable, because the strong gravity will double the body's consumption, and the heart and brain will not be able to get enough blood. It will take at least half a month to adapt. But Xia Xingchen did not have such adverse reactions. He thought that this was probably the credit of the mysterious crystal pyramid. In the following time, Freya gave him a detailed introduction to the quicksand base. Not far from Watchstar is the Death Star region, which is full of mystery and danger, but also rich in resources. Every year, a large number of spaceships pass through Watchstar to adventure and treasure hunt in the Death Star region, which naturally attracts a large number of interstellar pirates. These pirates are no match for the army in space, so they fled to Watchstar, established pirate bases, and harassed space stations and passing spaceships. The military was forced to build a spacecraft launch site on Watchstar, and with the launch site as the center, radiated to the surrounding areas, and established more than a dozen outposts. The responsibilities of these bases are to eliminate the interstellar pirates who landed, and protect the local indigenous residents, the Riminians. Quicksand Base is the farthest base from the launch site. It is located in an oasis in the Gobi Desert, and the natural environment is very harsh. Not only do they often fight with interstellar pirates, but they are also often attacked by wild beasts such as sandworms and stinging scorpions. Every year, 200 to 300 people die in this base. It is like quicksand that constantly devours the lives of soldiers, so this base is named Quicksand, to remind everyone who comes here. Chapter 33 Quicksand Base. There is a mecha battalion stationed at the Quicksand Base, with 200 infantrymen and more than 200 logistics support personnel, totaling more than 500 people. The mecha troops of the Galactic Empire are organized into a squad of 5 mechas, a squad of 5 squads, and a battalion of 2 squadrons. The car ran for more than 1,500 kilometers in the Gobi Desert and finally arrived at a supply station in the evening. When the car was still far away from the supply station, 2 fully armed soldiers and a mecha locked their car with a weapon system from a distance. After coming close, after careful inspection and verification of documents, the 2 were allowed to enter the yard of the supply station. This supply station is 80 meters long and 80 meters wide, and the wall is 5 meters high alloy concrete. There are armed watchtowers at the 4 corners, and the only exit is guarded by a mecha and 2 soldiers. Why are they so nervous, as if they are facing a great enemy? Xia Xingchen was very curious. You just came here, and didn't know that night is when the beasts of Watchstar are most active. If you are alone in the world at night, even if you drive a mecha, it will be dangerous. One day is definitely not enough to get from the launch site to the Quicksand Base, so you must rest at the supply station at night. This place is often attacked by wild beasts at night, and sometimes the crazy sand bandits, interstellar pirates living in the desert, will sneak attack here. At the beginning, there was only one mecha team stationed here. It was bloodbath 3 times in a year, and everyone died. Finally, the military had no choice but to make great efforts to expand this supply station. Now there are 2 mecha teams here. There is a high probability of fighting at night. You don't have to worry about it, just have a good rest. Don't worry about the outside world. If they can't resist, it's useless to have one more of you, and we have no way to escape in the desert. Freya explained in great detail. Xia Xingchen nodded silently. In just a few days, he understood the cruelty of Watchstar, but he was full of hope. If he survived and grew up in such an environment, he would definitely become a strong man. Only such an environment can best hone people. In the middle of the night, there was a fierce exchange of fire outside the house, and the sound of gunfire and artillery sounded. The next morning, the 2 walked out of the house. There were 2 body bags lying across the yard, with 2 fresh corpses in them. Everyone was calm. When the car drove out of the supply station, Xia Xingchen found that the ground outside was covered with green blood in the wreckage of Mecha. The Mecha was pierced by countless sharp weapons and had become a pile of scrap metal. It's a stinging scorpion. They are social animals. Their scorpion stings can pierce mechas. But you will definitely not find a corpse. They even eat their own kind and will not give up any protein. If you encounter them in the wild, running is the only way to survive. Don't try to fight them in the wild. There are too many of them, and they will not stop until they die. The car rushed all the way. The rotation time of the Watchstar is 26 hours. At about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there were more than 200 kilometers to the quicksand base. Swish, swish. Quicksand calls blood rose. Quicksand calls blood rose. The communicator that had been silent all the way suddenly rang. Blood rose received. Quicksand, please speak. Freya replied. Blood rose was her code name for the operation. An hour ago, a group of sand bandits attempted to attack the base. After being defeated, they are fleeing in your direction and will contact you in a few minutes. There are a total of 4 desert off-road vehicles and a mecha. The 06 team is chasing them 20 kilometers behind them. Please evade in time. Have you ever used weapons? Freya asked. No. Then you drive. Freya stopped the car and the two exchanged seats in the car. When they exchanged seats, Freya sat over from his lap. The round and firm buttocks and the fragrance of a woman greatly stimulated this young man who was full of blood. Freya felt something hard against her butt from behind. She glared at Xia Xingchen and said coldly, "Dare to hit on me? Do you want some extra parts of your body that you don't want?" Xia Xingchen blushed, tightly gripped the steering wheel and didn't speak. "Turn the car around, keep the engine running, stop where you are, and listen to my orders," Freya ordered. Then she rolled down the window on the rear door, assembled a laser sniper rifle, installed the energy module, charged the gun, and finally loaded two shoulder-fired rocket launchers with ammunition, and put them aside. The barrel of the sniper rifle extended out from the rear door window. The electronic optical sight clearly presented the scene 3 kilometers away. The intelligent aiming system automatically analyzed the humidity, dust particle concentration, wind speed and other information in the atmosphere, and calculated the curvature of the laser. Because there are many factors in the atmospheric environment that can cause the laser to deflect. Looking from a distance, 4 black dots appeared, and farther away was a larger black dot, which was a mecha. Soon, the enemy entered the range. Freya pulled the trigger, and a purple laser shot out instantly, directly hitting the engine of the first car. The car quickly exploded violently, and the entire car body was blown into the sky. Then she pulled the trigger again, and after another laser beam, another desert off-road vehicle flew into the air. It's really exciting, but it's a pity that I only brought 1 energy box, and can only fire 2 rounds. Freya was very regretful. "Drive, get out of the battlefield at full speed," she ordered. Xia Xingchen released the brake and stepped on the accelerator to the bottom. The tires and the ground rubbed violently, and the car rushed out. Freya put away the sniper rifle, raised the rear window, and sat back in the passenger seat. Chapter 34, Escape from Death. Evil Maggot is a small leader in the Crawler, the largest sand bandit organization on Watchstar. The night before, he was drinking and bragging with a group of sand bandits. He said that he could kill dozens of soldiers at a time. Some people didn't believe it, so they made a bet with Jill. There is an old saying that alcohol makes cowards brave. Stimulated by alcohol and squeezed by others, he directly led his brothers, drove 3 mechas and 10 desert off-road vehicles, and launched a surprise attack on the quicksand base. But the luck of this evil maggot was not good enough. The 2 teams of the quicksand base were about to conduct actual combat training. As soon as the 10 fully armed mechas left the gate of the base, they saw a group of sand bandits coming over aggressively. 10 mechas fired a volley, and the sand bandits lost 2 mechas and 6 tanks. Jill sobered up and turned around and ran. The quicksand base sent 5 mechas from the 06 team to pursue the victory and expand the results. But Jill's bad luck was not over yet. Before he could get rid of the pursuers behind him, he was ambushed in front of him. What ambushed them was just an ordinary military jeep. The sand bandits and the 2 surviving vehicles were scared and fled in all directions. Jill was completely angry. He stepped on the power pedal hard, and the back thruster sprayed flames. The auxiliary wheels under the mecha almost left the ground, quickly closing the distance between the mecha and the jeep. Jill's mecha had a medium-range anti-mecha missile with a maximum range of 10 kilometers. This was a high-end product with a high price. He was reluctant to use it until the critical moment. But now he was furious and just wanted to kill Freya and the others to vent his anger. The mecha computer prompted that the target had been locked and entered the range, and he decisively fired the missile. Xia Xingchen was driving with full concentration, and suddenly he saw a flash of fire flying towards the car through the rear view mirror. Missile. His pupils contracted and he shouted. It was too late to dodge at this time. The anti-mecha missile had a strong tracking ability. It was fast and powerful. At this critical moment, he released a large amount of mental power to cover the space around the car. In this space, time seemed to be slowed down instantly. The position and movement trajectory of every grain of sand and stone in the surrounding dozens of cubic meters of space appeared clearly in his mind. This was exactly the new application of mental power he understood when fighting with Ye Kun for life and death. Insight. The missile was getting closer and closer, entering the range of the insight ability, and the missile stabbed the car diagonally from top to bottom. It was this opportunity that Xia Xingchen saw the opportunity clearly, stepped on the brakes, and turned the steering wheel to the left at the same time. The car suddenly turned sideways and rolled out, and the missile hit the ground only more than 1 meter away from the car. The powerful explosion pushed the car out more than 10 meters away, and Xia Xingchen and Freya were thrown out. But fortunately, at this moment, he released all his mental power to wrap himself and Freya. Not long after the huge explosion, the smoke and dust dissipated, and a large pit with a diameter of more than 3 meters appeared on the ground. Xia Xingchen's mental power resisted most of the impact on the two of them, but they still flew more than 10 meters away and fell to the ground. Their clothes were almost torn into strips and their bodies were covered with scratches. Freya fainted. Xia Xingchen was a little stronger than her. Although he did not faint, he also had stars in his eyes and a buzzing sound in his ears. It seemed that all his internal organs had moved. After about a minute, he barely supported his body and tried to get up. At this time, he saw smoke and dust rolling in front of him. The engine roared, and a mecha more than 5 meters high stopped more than 10 meters in front of him. The mecha raised its hand and pointed the muzzle of its gun at Xia Xingchen. Xia Xingchen was stunned by the mecha in front of him. He had been catching up on his knowledge of mechas recently, and he had learned almost everything about general-purpose mechas and some common modified models. But he really didn't recognize the mecha in front of him. The models of the two legs of the mecha are barely the same, but from the legs upwards, the waist, torso, thrusters, two arms, head and other parts belong to 3 or 4 models of mechas. The armor plates in many places on the mecha are gone, and a layer of ordinary steel plates are welded. The joints are even wrapped with a piece of canvas. There are also many parts with wires and hydraulic transmission devices exposed outside. This is simply a monster assembled from a pile of garbage. However, now he is injured, unarmed, and has no power to fight back. Even if this pile of garbage falls apart, it can still crush him to death. Ha 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 ha, you little bastard. You dare to trick your Uncle Jill. Let me send you to hell. I like human meat sauce the most. As he said, the tattered mecha raised its right leg and stepped towards Xia Xingchen. Xia Xingchen gritted his teeth and jumped to the left with all his strength. The mecha's foot was only 1 meter away from him. He stomped on the ground, and the splashed sand and gravel hit his face painfully. He ran between the legs of the mech and toward its back. Freya was lying not far from him, and it was unknown whether she was dead or alive. Xia Xingchen wanted to divert the attention of the mech. Seeing that his attack missed, Jill turned around and raised his foot to step on him again. Xia Xingchen tried hard to dodge again. There were 2 times when the mech almost stepped on Xia Xingchen, but Jill didn't want to let his opponent go so easily. He deliberately let him go, just to see Xia Xingchen's embarrassed and dying struggle. Another minute passed, and the mech stepped on him more than 10 times, but didn't touch him at all. At this time, a purple laser as thick as an arm shot from a distance. Jill, who was playing the whack-a-mole game, couldn't dodge in time, and was shot through the cockpit. The mech shook a few times, and then suddenly broke into pieces, becoming a real pile of garbage. Xia Xingchen was almost hit by these scattered garbage. 5 Mechas rushed over from a distance and surrounded him. The Mechas had 06 printed on their shoulders. They were the 06th Mecha Squadron of the Quicksand Base. The cockpit of a Mecha opened, and a sergeant carrying a first aid kit checked the 2 of them, and found that they were fine. 3 had just fainted due to concussion. He simply treated their wounds. A few minutes later, a 4-wing helicopter flew from the direction of the Quicksand Base. Several medical staff got off the helicopter and carried the still unconscious Freya onto the plane. Xia Xingchen followed. Before getting on the plane, the Mecha pilot patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, "There are not many recruits that can be picked up by the base. You are lucky to have the queen." Xia Xingchen was confused. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 Arrangement. The Quicksand Base has a circular outer wall. The base is circular with a diameter of about 1 kilometer. The average height of the outer wall is 5 meters, and it is also an alloy concrete structure. There is a turret every 10 meters on the outer wall. Inside the wall, there are all kinds of facilities such as a helipad, a mecha hangar, and a barracks. There is even a small pond and many trees. According to the pilot, the underground of the Quicksand Base is almost empty. There are 3 floors of underground space with an area similar to that of the ground. More than 500 people stationed here will not feel crowded at all. Xia Xingchen was taken to the infirmary of the base, treated his wounds, took a shower, and found a clean military uniform to wear. He has nothing now, and all his personal belongings were damaged in the explosion. The base staff took him to the commander's office on the 2nd floor underground, which was considered a formal report. Report to the commander. Private Xia Xingchen is here to report. Lieutenant Colonel Nickel, the commander of the Quicksand Base, looked at Xia Xingchen silently for a long time before speaking. "I don't know what your background is, nor do I know your character, let alone your strength. I can only be sure that you are a lucky guy. Generally speaking, there are always some guys on the battlefield who are luckier than others. They can live a little longer than others. I think you are one of them." It turned out that Xia Xingchen was 3 days late because the journey from Ubenstar to Watchstar was too long. There were a total of 20 new recruits to be added to the Quicksand Base, but he was late, so the 19 soldiers followed the supply convoy and set off first. As a result, the supply convoy was harassed by 2 groups of sand bandits on the way and failed to reach the supply station before dark. After dark, it encountered a group of stinging scorpions. The driver, the new recruits and some base staff were all wiped out, and not even a piece of intact meat was left. The assistant of the old man Free in the Mecha maintenance department of the logistics department died. He is an unlucky guy. So, you should report to old Free. Work in the logistics department first. Maybe you will live longer. Nickel said helplessly. "Yes, sir." "Go, young man. Welcome to the Quicksand Hell." The logistics department is on the 3rd floor underground of the base. He first went to the quartermaster's office to get equipment, 2 sets of camouflage uniforms, a personal tactical terminal, a dog tag, a backpack, and a pistol. The personal tactical terminal of this era is only the size of an electronic watch. It has functions such as video calls, data transmission, GPS positioning, electronic keys, remote control of weapons, and vital signs detection. It can also connect to the base's main control computer and Skynet to obtain information at any time. Through the personal terminal, he came to a huge mecha warehouse, where various mecha parts were piled up like mountains. This pile is the head, that pile is the arm, and another pile is the thruster. A bald white old man in his 50s, covered in oil, was sitting on a pile of mecha heads looking for something. Report to Sergeant Free. Private Xia Xingchen is reporting. The old man came out from the pile of parts and looked at Xia Xingchen. "How old are you?" the old man asked. Report to the commander. "I just turned 16 this year." "Have you repaired mechas?" "No, sir." "Then have you learned mecha repair technology?" "No, sir." "Then why are you here?" The old man was a little angry. Damn nickel, I told him that I want to find a smarter, more clever person with mecha repair technology to help me. What are you doing here? To make fun of me? Report to the commander. Lieutenant Colonel Nickel said that I'm luckier than the original unlucky guy, so he sent me here. OOXX, Nickel, Zixu. Old Man Free greeted Nickel and all the women in his family with the most vicious language in the universe. After more than 10 minutes, he cursed until his mouth was dry, and he finally stopped. You, come with me. He waved his hand and walked towards his office, which was a small room in the warehouse. The table and the floor in the room were filled with various books, drawings and small mecha parts. He rummaged under the table for a long time and finally found a thick book. He threw it on the table with a bang. From the sound, you can tell that this book is not thin at all. Take this book, A Brief History of the Development and Design of Mecha, back and read it. I will give you 3 days. I will take an exam. If you can't get 70 points, you can go out and kill bugs with a gun. I don't want waste here. He paused and continued. The empty house behind the warehouse was where the unlucky guy lived before. His personal belongings were burned. You live there. This unlucky guy, he doesn't stay in the base, but has to go to the satellite to find a woman. He muttered and turned back to climb onto the pile of parts. It turned out that his former helper, the unlucky guy, was at the age of vigorous blood and strong needs, but the female creatures in the entire quicksand base, except for Freya, the blood rose, that no one dared to mess with, were all dinosaurs over 50 years old. Later, the unlucky guy couldn't hold it in any longer, so he asked for leave and went to the Watchstar space station to have fun for a few days. As a result, when he came back with the convoy, he became the food of the stinging scorpion. Xia Xingchen came to the hut behind the warehouse and opened the door with a personal terminal. This is a small room of only 20 square meters, with a bed, a table, a toilet, a desk lamp, a computer, and nothing else. He put down his luggage, picked up A Brief History of the Development and Design of Mechas, and read it with interest. After reading it, he was completely immersed in the book unconsciously. When the tactical terminal issued a beep reminder sound, reminding him to go to the restaurant for dinner, he realized that the whole afternoon had passed. He had finished 1/5 of this book. What surprised him even more was that when he was immersed in that state of devotion, he automatically entered a state of insight. In this state, he could remember everything he saw. He could remember every page number and every punctuation mark in the book clearly, and he could recall them at any time, which was faster than the search engine. It seemed that this was the credit of the mysterious crystal pyramid. Chapter 36, Genius. 2 days later, he found Old Free. How much have you read? I won't force you. I will only test you on what you have read. But you'd better not tell me that you have only read a few dozen pages. If you do, I will twist your head off and put it in the toilet. The old man kept chattering. In fact, the so-called exam was just an excuse. He just wanted to drive away this kid who knew nothing. I have finished reading it all and remembered all the content. Xia Xingchen replied calmly. Oh, I have finished reading it all. What? I have finished reading it all. Free's eyes widened and his beard and eyebrows stood up. Boy, I hate people fooling me the most. We are engaged in mecha maintenance. A negligence can lead to the death of the pilot. Are you sure you are serious? The consequences of deceiving me are not something you can bear. Please ask the superior to examine me. He handed the book to Old Free and stood straight. Old Free opened the book and began to ask questions. What was the first mecha that was connected to the neural control system and mass produced? When did it start mass production? How many units were produced in total? Report to the commander. It is the Heart Language BS001 model, which was mass produced in 2099 AD on the Earth calendar, and a total of 189 units were produced. The relevant content is on pages 899 to 906 of the book. Which non-humanoid mecha has the largest production volume so far, and who is the manufacturer? What is the model of the core component of this mecha? TCG 3000 Mecha, the Galactic Empire Military Identification Code Flying Leopard. The manufacturer is Tang Dynasty Group, and the core component is the QBS Intelligent Universal Gyroscope. The relevant content is on pages 2754 to 2833. What are the main differences in the design concepts of space-type mechas and atmospheric internal mechas? Old Free asked more than 20 questions and got perfect answers. Not only that, Xia Xingchen also accurately pointed out the exact page range of these contents in the book. This is not scientific. Old Free was completely stunned. But he thought again, maybe this little guy has read this book before, and his memory is stronger, so he came here to play the game of pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger with me. Wait a minute. Old Free went into his messy office again. Half an hour later, he threw 4 thick books on the table. These 4 books: Elementary Mecha Operating System Programming, Intermediate Mecha Operating System Programming, Advanced Mecha Operating System Programming, and Dictionary, Mecha Operating System Source Code Encyclopedia. Go back and read them. I will give you 10 days, and then you can take the exam. The treatment is the same. Xia Xingchen frowned. This task is not easy, but he has the crystal pyramid in his hand, so it is not impossible to complete it. Besides, he can learn a lot in this way, which is also a very happy thing. He returned to the room and entered the state of insight again. However, the state of insight also consumes a lot of mental energy. Although it is not as much as driving a mecha, it is also consuming all the time. Once the mental energy is exhausted, Xia Xingchen starts to meditate and then continues to read after recovery. In this state of forgetting to eat and sleep, half a month passed in the blink of an eye. On the 15th day, he finally finished reading the last page and closed the book. After flipping through the 4 books, Old Free asked hundreds of questions, all of which were very tricky and strange, and even asked him to recite large sections of the source code. This was something that even he himself could not do, but Xia Xingchen answered every word exactly. Old Free saw that he could not be stumped, so he threw the book away in a huff, picked up a handheld X-ray flaw detector, and scanned him from head to toe. Stop, sir. This thing has radiation and can kill people. Xia Xingchen dodged desperately. Hey, it's strange. It's not an electronic brain. There is no smart chip implanted, and there is no macro receiving device in the air. It seems that this kid didn't cheat. Xia Xingchen was very upset. Not bad. It seems that you are not only luckier than that unlucky guy, but you still have some strength. This is very good. I'm optimistic about you. Old Free said while nodding. Starting tomorrow, you will come with me to the mecha repair workshop in the morning and learn mecha repair, maintenance, and modification techniques. In the afternoon, you will go back to read books. I will give you a lot of books. You will finish 1 book every 2 days. I will also assess you and ask you questions about the contents of other books you have read. In addition, I hope that you can not only memorize the contents of the book, but also digest and understand it. It is best to ask questions and read books with questions. Yes, sir. This time, Xia Xingchen used a cart to drag the books back. Introduction to Mecha Repair, Weapon System Modification, 100,000 Examples of Mecha Failures, Mecha Power System Modification Cases, etc. There are more than 50 books in total. The next morning, he came to the maintenance workshop, and many technicians had already started working there. Watch first, learn as much as you can, and ask me if you don't understand. I will teach the systematic courses together when the next batch of recruits arrive. Old Free said, and turned to get busy. Watching other technicians doing maintenance, he unknowingly used his inside skills. Each technician has different habits, rhythms, and techniques when repairing. Xia Xingchen silently felt the different movements of these technicians, and verified them with the content in the book. He compared and analyzed the movements of these technicians, and calculated which movement was the most reasonable, and could be used by him. What's more amazing, is that the insight ability can penetrate into the interior of the mecha. He himself seems to have become a part of the mecha, and can automatically find the fault points inside the mecha. This skill is simply a golden finger for mecha maintenance technicians. Time flies, and another half a month has passed. His life in this half month is very fulfilling. Although Old Free did not let him repair it independently, he has seen how some of the most common faults of the mecha in the base are repaired and handled. The more unexpected gain is that his own mental power has reached level 15 after a large amount of mental power consumption. The long-awaited reinforcement of troops at the quicksand base has finally arrived. This time, 40 people have been added. The quicksand base has specially dispatched a mecha team to escort. The journey is smooth, and people and supplies have arrived safely. Among the 40 people, 10 soldiers with basic knowledge of mecha maintenance were assigned to the mecha maintenance department of the logistics department. Their course schedule is to participate in practical learning in the morning and take theoretical classes in the afternoon. Early this morning, at the number 1 operating table of the first maintenance workshop of the logistics department of the Liaoshi base, Sergeant Major rolled free war universal maintenance mechanical arms on his arms, and behind him were 11 new students. Today, he wants to show his skills to these rookies. On the operating table is a 4.8 meter high general purpose mecha, TC Xia 035. The military identification code of the Galactic Empire is Ranger. Because there are too many mecha models, and often the models are very long, there is no time to say the long list of mecha models in the fleeting battle, which will delay the opportunity, so the Galactic Empire military gave all military mechas a short military identification code. The Black Duke and Anamasha mentioned above are military identification codes. The Ranger is a general purpose mecha with excellent performance. From the parameters, its strength is 9, its agility is 12, and its defense is 8. The Ranger has the following advantages. First, it is inexpensive and suitable for mass production. Second, it has good compatibility and can be equipped with a variety of weapons and equipment to meet a variety of complex combat conditions. Third, the structural design is simple and reliable, and it is easy to repair and maintain. In addition, for the garrison of Watchstar, the Ranger is light in weight and fast in speed, which makes it less affected on such a planet with a gravity of up to 2.3 grams. However, if it is a heavy mecha like the Anamasha, it is just a turtle shell that can't run on Watchstar, and can only passively take a beating. Chapter 37, Disassembly and Assembly of Mecha. At this moment, standing in front of the mecha maintenance operation table, this old man with a somewhat eccentric personality, bad temper, and some neurosis seemed to have become a different person, and his temperament had changed greatly. Mecha maintenance is not just a technology, it is an art. An excellent mecha maintenance technician can make the mecha burst out 150% or even 200% of its energy. Because the mecha has a soul. He looked around at the 11 students, paused, and continued. In the process of mecha maintenance, you must communicate with the mecha with your heart, so that you can get in touch with their souls, and understand the mecha. The students below looked at each other. With their experience and level, they could not understand what Free had just said. Only Xia Xingchen was thoughtful. He remembered the feeling of his body merging with the mecha, when he used the inside skill to scan the mecha, as if he had become the mecha. That's right, the mecha really has a soul. What you are learning now is just the conventional repair and maintenance of mechas, using computers and tools to detect faults, and then replace spare parts. Do you think this is all about mecha maintenance? You are wrong. This is far from enough. For example, if a war breaks out, and the mecha is seriously damaged in the battle, you will find that there are faults everywhere, and it is completely unusable when you use a computer to detect it. However, the actual situation is not like this. It can still continue to fight. You can't repair it. That's because you don't know enough about mechas, and don't know how its various parts work. Next, I will teach you how to thoroughly understand your mecha. The simplest way is to dismantle it. But the students were shocked. No one had asked them to do this when they were learning maintenance before. Report to the commander. This is impossible. We are not a mecha manufacturer. There are many parts that cannot be dismantled without special equipment. A student mustered up the courage to question loudly. Just because you haven't seen or known something doesn't mean it doesn't exist or can't happen. Now is the moment to witness a miracle. Old Free said, and suddenly sneered. You must watch carefully. I hope you can do what I'm doing now in 2 months. I will assess you then. If you can't do it then, just go out and kill bugs with your guns. I don't need trash here. Hearing this, the students were sweating profusely. They had heard about Old Free's deeds in the past few days. He had a very respected position in the quicksand base, and even dared to point at the base commander, Lieutenant Colonel Nickel, and curse him. And he was definitely a guy who did what he said. Everyone rubbed their eyes and watched attentively, afraid of missing every move of his. Old Free began to move. He removed the first bolt on the back of the cockpit's outer armor plate, and then continued to move forward. Each action, one after another, was done in one go, without any thought. The universal maintenance mechanical arm in his hand flew up and down, so fast that it was almost invisible. In coordination with a mechanical arm on the operating table, a nearly 5-meter high Ranger basic mecha was disassembled into 5,872 basic parts. The so-called basic parts are detachable parts on the mecha with independent functions. Normal mecha maintenance only requires replacing these basic parts that have failed or been damaged. Basic parts can theoretically be disassembled or even repaired, but most of them are integrally formed, or sealed with special materials, or have a very high degree of integration, such as fuel cells, neural connection devices, etc. It is difficult to reinstall these basic parts after disassembling them, and there is no point in doing so. The trainees dared not breathe, and watched a pile of parts taller than a person placed in front of them. Old Free wiped the sweat from his head and said, "I'm old, really old. It took me 78 minutes. I only took me 66 minutes to dismantle it 10 years ago." At this time, the students' eyes were full of shock, envy, admiration and even some panic. Even if they were given 2 days, they might not be able to disassemble the mecha like this. Thinking about the assessment in 2 months, a depressed mood spread among the crowd. Old Free used the excuse of going to the toilet to run to a secluded place where no one was around. He took out a small wine bottle from his pocket, opened the lid, and took a big sip. The strong liquor flowed down the esophagus into the stomach, and all the limbs and bones felt so comfortable. In addition to repairing mechas, this drink is the biggest hobby of this old man. Although alcohol is strictly prohibited during working hours at the base, Old Free has privileges. As long as he doesn't drink in front of others during working hours, no one dares to control him. Old Free burped, and the lost physical strength returned to his body. He returned to the operating table in high spirits, put on the universal repair mechanical arm, and began to assemble the parts one by one. The students were dumbfounded. Old Free assembled the mecha as easily as he disassembled it, without any delay or pause. This was much more difficult. After all, when disassembling, you just need to remove the parts one by one. When assembling, you first have to find the next part you need from the 5,872 basic accessories piled up like a mountain. Xia Xingchen entered the state of insight again. Every move of Old Free was slowed down and deeply engraved in his mind. Every time he picked up a part, Xia Xingchen would try hard to recall what it was used for. These days, he had read the design drawings and maintenance manuals of the Ranger. Time always passes quickly when people are focused. When Old Free tightened the last bolt, the trainees found that the pile of parts on the ground had turned back into a complete mecha. Old Free connected the detection equipment. A few minutes later, a series of data appeared on the large display screen of the console, and several large green characters appeared on the display screen. All systems are normal. Warm applause rang out in the maintenance workshop. Everyone was impressed by Old Free's superb skills. This applause was heartfelt applause from the heart. Alas, I'm still old 201 minutes. Back then, I couldn't even use 180 minutes. Old Free muttered, and a sense of fatigue came over him. He just wanted to go back to his room, have a good drink, and then have a good sleep. Xia Xingchen's face turned pale at this time, and he staggered and almost fell. Some trainees thought he was sick, and helped him into the room. In fact, this was due to excessive use of mental power. Xia Xingchen used the inside skill for nearly 4 hours in a row, and it had reached its limit. Back in the room, he took the time to meditate. And his meditation this time was also a little different from usual. The scene of Old Free disassembling and assembling the mecha replayed over and over in his mind. The next morning, he came to the maintenance workshop as usual, but he found that the atmosphere today was very different, tense, and solemn. Most of the new trainees had dark circles under their eyes. It seemed that what happened yesterday was too stimulating for them, and none of them slept well. At this time, Xia Xingchen was allowed to repair some simple faults by himself. Yesterday's experience brought him a lot of gains. He completed the work at hand neatly, and the several old technicians who were guiding him were very satisfied. Chapter 38 Wrench 1. After dinner, Old Free lay comfortably on his bed, flipping through a technical document while drinking a little wine, his face flushed. Report to the commander. Xia Xingchen knocked on the door and walked in. What's the matter? What don't you understand? I'll tell you tomorrow. Can't you see that I'm off work? These days, Xia Xingchen often asked him about mecha maintenance issues, and he was willing to answer them, but Xia Xingchen came when he was tasting fine wine, which was obviously not a suitable time. Old Free's face was a little unfriendly. It's like this, Commander, I want to apply for a ranger to practice disassembly and assembly, Xia Xingchen requested. Oh. Old Free was surprised. Are you sure you have digested all the things I demonstrated yesterday? I tell you, if your mecha is broken, I won't help you clean up your mess. You will run naked outside the base in the middle of the night, he threatened. Report to the commander. I have confidence. Old Free's eyes rolled, and a plan came to mind. He got off the bed, staggered to the mecha warehouse outside the house, and pointed to the pile of mecha parts. Oh, here. There are more than 60 ranger parts. If I remember correctly, at least 2 complete ranger basic models can be assembled. You can find all the parts here to assemble the ranger. After assembling, this mecha is yours. As long as you can control it, you can drive it out for a ride. At the back of the warehouse, there are 2 mecha maintenance operating tables. You can use them at will. After the old man finished speaking, he went back to drink. Zixu, Oxx. Xia Xingchen's heart suddenly surged with countless grass mud horses. There are hundreds of mecha wreckages in this entire warehouse. Most of them have been disassembled, and those that have not been disassembled are also missing most of the parts. Even if 10 technicians search here for a month, they may not be able to find them all. But he thought again that he had the inside skill, so he could still challenge it. He drove an electric trailer and entered the inside state. Since the current inside range is only a few dozen square meters, he can only scan it bit by bit with mental power. Once he found a good accessory for the ranger mech, he would just flip it out and throw it onto the car. For those light accessories, he would just wrap them with his telekinesis and take them out and slowly put them onto the car, which greatly improved the efficiency. However, doing so consumed too much mental energy. In less than an hour, his mental energy was completely used up, and he could only stop and sit there to meditate. For 5 whole days, he was in the warehouse, looking for accessories day and night. Old Free saw him like this, smiled, and did not stop him. In fact, he originally just wanted to come up with such a difficult problem, to make things difficult for Xia Xingchen, hoping that he would give up. Who knew that this silly boy was so stubborn, and it would be good for him to suffer a little. It was late at night, and the last truck of accessories was transported to the operating table. At this time, Xia Xingchen's face was haggard, his face was unshaven, and he also emitted an unpleasant smell. After 5 days of sleepless and crazy searching, he could finally assemble the mech, and he was very excited. After returning to the room, he had a big meal, a shower, and a good sleep. He wanted to assemble the mecha in the best condition. Standing in front of the operating table, wearing the universal maintenance mechanical arm, and fully opening the inside skill, he recalled the scene when Old Free assembled the mecha, and he began to move. Although his movements were not as fast as Old Free's, which was due to his lack of proficiency, every movement was clear, in place, and the rhythm was done in one go. Finally, Xia Xingchen tightened the last bolt, and it was more than 10 hours later. He sat on the ground, and at this time he was too tired to lift his fingers. He looked up at the behemoth in front of him, like a father looking at his child, with a sense of satisfaction in his heart. After resting for a long time, he sat up, charged the mecha, and then connected the mecha with the detection equipment. A few minutes later, the computer displayed, "All systems are normal." Yeah, it worked. Xia Xingchen jumped up happily. However, since this mecha is assembled from many different mecha basic parts, the appearance of the parts is old and new, which does not look very beautiful. He turned on the computer on the console, and prepared to repaint the mecha. The ranger mechas at the quicksand base are all painted in yellow-green, which is more concealed in the desert. But Xia Xingchen doesn't like it. After all, he is still a young man, and likes a more stylish color. The body of the ranger is relatively slender, so he chose a white body and a sky blue for the joints. After the spraying program was set, several mechanical arms with pipes stretched out from the console and began the spraying operation. The team number was sprayed on the chest of each mecha in the base. Xia Xingchen suddenly had the urge to play a prank. He designed a wrench logo and printed it on the chest of the mecha, representing the logistics department. Finally, the spraying operation was completed, and a white ranger mecha appeared majestically in front of him. This is different from a civilian, modified machine like the Blue God of War. This is a real military mecha. At this time, the mecha had been fully charged. Xia Xingchen sat in the cockpit, put on the induction headband, and turned on the start switch. However, the mecha did not move. A dialog box popped up on the screen in front of him, and several large red characters came into view. Error. Fault code 006521. The operating system does not match the hardware. Xia Xingchen then remembered that the operating system of the mecha is closely connected with the hardware. For such an assembled machine, all the hardware does not match the identification code on the original machine accessories, and the operating system must be rewritten. However, this is not difficult for Xia Xingchen at all. After all, the 4 system programming textbooks were not memorized in vain. He called up a virtual keyboard, his fingers flew up and down, and a large section of source code was entered. A progress bar appeared on the screen at this time, and the progress bar showed system restarting. After a few minutes, the progress bar was finished. The screen first completely turned off, and then lit up again. All the instruments and displays in the cockpit lit up, and the mecha engine began to run. Welcome to the Tang Dynasty Group TC Xia K035 mecha. Please start the initialization settings. Please name this machine. A female voice prompt sounded. Wrench number 1. Xia Xingchen thought for a moment and said. Wrench number 1. Naming confirmed. Settings completed. Please set your personal usage habits. Another dialog box popped up, showing a row of mecha control parameters, such as button response time, pedal strength, power output mode, etc. These parameters can be modified according to the personal habits of the mecha technician. Xia Xingchen thought about it carefully, set the parameters, and restarted the system as required. The indicator light on the eyes of the ranger mecha lit up, and the engine ran smoothly. Xia Xingchen felt that he had merged with the mecha. At this time, the bracket and cable connecting the operating table to the mecha were automatically disconnected, and the mecha untied its body. Wrench number 1, let's go. Chapter 39 Oolong Incident. It was inevitable that he would be very excited to drive a truly complete military mecha for the first time. Xia Xingchen was eager to try out the performance of the mecha on the ground. There were large elevators in the warehouse and maintenance workshop on the 3rd underground floor. The 2nd underground floor was the weapons depot and mecha depot. Faulty mechas were transported here by elevator for repair and maintenance. Wrench 1 walked into the elevator, and the elevator slowly rose and came to the ground. It was noon at this time. The light from the stars on the watchtower was very strong. The white light shone on the surface of Wrench 1, reflecting a dazzling light. The mecha walked out of the elevator, and Xia Xingchen looked around. This was the first time he had looked at the quicksand base so carefully in the nearly 2 months since he came here. There were several barracks and several hangars in the distance. However, he overlooked a very serious problem. Woo! A shrill alarm suddenly sounded in the base, and everyone's personal terminal and mecha received the alarm. Level 1 combat alert. An unknown mecha has entered the base. It turned out that each military mecha had an identification code, but Wrench 1 did not have an identification code, and its paint was completely different from other mechas. No one knew where this mecha came from. When it suddenly appeared inside the base wall, the duty personnel at the command center immediately sounded the alarm, and it was the highest level 1 alarm. The 5 mechas of the 07th team, who were on duty in the base yard, surrounded Wrench 1 and locked their weapons on him. At this time, Lieutenant Colonel Nickel ran into the command center in a panic. He was taking a shower. After hearing the alarm, he put on his clothes and ran to the command center. He issued an order. Each team is on standby. The 07th team goes to subdue the intruder, and the 01st, 02nd, 04th, and 05th teams strengthen the vigilance around the base. 2 Malay Ranger mechas of Team 07 received an order. Go forward and subdue the invaders. The Ranger is a mecha with very good compatibility. It can be equipped with different weapons and equipment to meet various tactical needs. Wrench 1 is a basic model with only one body and no weapons and equipment. The melee ranger is equipped with a diamond shield, an alloy sword, and 4 explosive thrusters on the back. The 2 rangers were one in front and one behind, holding their shields in front of the mechas, holding their alloy swords horizontally, and the thrusters behind them sprayed blue flames, rushing towards Wrench 1. Xia Xingchen hadn't figured out the situation yet when he suddenly heard the alarm and then found himself surrounded. Later, the 2 mechas launched an attack without any reason. Wrench 1 did not have any weapons and equipment, and behind him were only 2 small thrusters originally installed on the basic mecha. He was now like a bare-handed man fighting 2 fully armed warriors. A huge sense of crisis came over him, and he instinctively entered the state of insight. The 2 rangers in front and behind have already adopted their attacking postures. If they don't dodge, they will be skewered like a candied horse by the alloy swords. If they dodge to the sides, the opponents can change their tactics, and the only opening is above. Wrench 1's knees were slightly bent, the engine power was turned to the maximum, the thrusters behind him were fully opened downwards, and the mental power wrapped around the mecha. The entire Wrench 1 jumped up more than 5 meters from the spot. The attacks of the 2 rangers missed, and they collided fiercely. The alloy sword of one ranger pierced the shoulder of the other ranger, and the right arm of the mecha fell to the ground. At this time, Wrench 1 began to fall. Its knees were aimed at the head of the other ranger. The knee joints of mechas are generally very thickly armored. Wrench 1's knees smashed the head of the ranger to pieces, and the body flew out. Since the head of the humanoid mecha is integrated with multiple sensors, if the head is destroyed, the mecha loses its combat capability. At this time, Wrench 1 landed on the ground swiftly, picked up the fallen alloy sword, and aimed the alloy sword at the cockpit of the other mecha. Everyone was stunned by this lightning fast action. The remaining 3 mechas of Team 07 quickly stepped forward, and laser cannons and other weapons were aimed at Wrench 1. The scene suddenly stalemated there. Xia Xingchen dialed the personal terminal. Commander Free, I have assembled a ranger, but I was surrounded when I was testing the machine order on the ground. What? You kid made such a big noise. Free was very surprised. You really assembled a ranger mecha? Yes, sir, but now I'm surrounded. Please help me contact the base. I don't have the base's communication password. You idiot, you dare to drive out without the mecha identification code. Well, this matter is left to me, an old man. Old Free laughed. At this time, the atmosphere in the command center of the quicksand base was solemn. Not only were they killed into the base, but the 2 mechas were also crippled and captured. Now the situation was in a stalemate, and neither side dared to take action. At this time, the communicator in the command center sounded an alarm, and someone sent an emergency call request. You old lunatic, I'm commanding the battle, and have no time to care about you. Lieutenant Colonel Nickel was very unhappy and roared loudly. Quality, pay attention to quality. What attitude? I just want to tell you, this is a misunderstanding. A rookie maintenance technician wanted to try the mecha, but he didn't know about the identification code, and made a mistake. Look how scared you are. Okay, that's it. I'll call him out. Old Free cut off the communication. Fuck, you old lunatic. It's okay that you are crazy, but your subordinates are also abnormal. Lieutenant Colonel Nickel was completely furious. Team 07, stop attacking. This is a disgusting misunderstanding. But your team should be reorganized. Is this the combat effectiveness? Although he also knew that the strength of the white mecha was extraordinary, he lost like this in a 2-on-1 situation. Also, military police put the young man in the white mecha in solitary confinement for 3 days. After receiving the notice from Old Free, Wrench number 1 took 2 steps back and retracted the alloy sword. Xia Xingchen opened the hatch and walked out. At this time, everyone in the base was looking at Wrench number 1. People wanted to see what this daring guy looked like. It's him. That lucky little guy. Lieutenant Colonel Nickel recognized him at a glance. Not bad, little brother. Sister is optimistic about you. In the hangar on the 2nd floor of the basement, in a red painted mecha, Freya, who was waiting for the plane, smiled. At this time, several emergency personnel rushed to the damaged Ranger mecha, opened the cockpit with the help of the maintenance technician, and the medical staff examined the two of them. Fortunately, no one was injured. Xia Xingchen grabbed the lifting cable and came to the ground. 4 military police rushed forward and handcuffed him. "Private, you are arrested. You have the right to remain silent, but you have to taste the taste of 3 days of confinement first." Then they locked Xia Xingchen in a small dark room without saying anything. Xia Xingchen smiled bitterly. "This is really an unprovoked disaster. But it just so happens that my mental power has been too much these days and has not been fully recovered. It's just the right opportunity to meditate." Chapter 40 Choice. In the conference room of the quicksand base, the heads of various departments of the base and the captains of several mecha squads gathered in the conference room on the first floor of the basement. They summarized the blunder that happened yesterday and discussed the results. What happened yesterday was very bad. What if the chaos caused by this incident caused the sand bandits to attack? The consequences would be serious. We must summarize it well. Nickel was very angry. The logistics department has a big problem in the management of new recruits. They don't know the rules, and they dispatched Mechas without the consent of the superiors. We must learn from this. Nickel glared at Old Free. The old guy closed his eyes and had a mean smile on his face. Nickel's lectures always went in one ear and out the other for him. "And the 07th Mecha Squad, you are too outrageous. 2 fully armed men fought against a mecha without any weapons, and the driver was just a maintenance worker, and they were instantly blown up and captured. With this level, how can you fight the sand bandits? How do you train normally?" Seeing that Old Free was unmoved, Lieutenant Colonel Nickel vented all his anger on the 07th Squad. The captain of Team 07 lowered his head and dared not say a word. There was no way. Everyone in the base saw it, and they lost so badly that they could not argue. "And the one on duty in the command room yesterday, couldn't you use the radio to ask first, or use the main control computer to check the personal terminal? You just pressed the first level alarm directly." The person in charge of the duty room muttered to himself, "Which old bastard asked us to call the police first and then verify when encountering an emergency?" Lieutenant Colonel Nickel complained there for a long time, and almost every department was scolded by him for an excuse. After venting enough, he asked again, "What other opinions do you have about this matter? In order to completely prevent this kind of thing from happening, what suggestions do you have?" Several team leaders felt unfair about the experience of Team 07. In their opinion, any mecha pilot below D level could not perform better against Trench number 1. However, if they said this, they would offend Old Free, who was the uncle of the base. They could offend Commander Nickel, but they dared not offend the mecha maintenance technician. "I want to say a few words." Lieutenant Tor, the captain of the 06th Mecha Squad, spoke. "This is a red-haired man in his 30s with a sturdy temperament. There is a scar running through his face, which makes him look a little hideous. Last month, our base selected elites from various squads to establish a special operations commando. Our 06th squad deputy captain Abate was transferred away. Now our team is short of people, and training and patrols have been affected. In the past 3 months, none of the new recruits have reached the 10th level of mental power, and there are no infantry who can drive mechas. You have to find a way to help us fill the gap, otherwise it will affect our combat effectiveness. Wait a few more days, wait for the next batch of soldiers to arrive, and the mecha division will be assigned to you first. No, it's too long, and the new recruits still need training, and running in. This takes time. Recently, the activities of sand bandits have become more and more rampant, and we can't wait. What do you want? Do you want me to be a pilot in your squad?" Faced with Tor's aggressive momentum, Lieutenant Colonel Nickel got angry. "Sir, I've read the information of Xia Xingchen, the driver of the White Ranger. He is a level 10 psychic, and from yesterday's battle, this guy's definitely a genius in mecha driving. It's a pity to keep such a person in the logistics department. I apply to transfer him to our 06th Mecha Squad. Please approve it." Tor said. "I object." "No." Old Free got anxious when he heard it. Lieutenant Colonel Nickel thought Tor's words made sense. Seeing Old Free's anxious look, a bad idea came to his mind, and he wanted to deliberately anger him. Yes, Lieutenant Tor is right. Talents must be placed in places where they can best display their talents. Now is the time to use people. I approve it. You are talking nonsense. Let's see who dares to snatch people from me. Old Free jumped up, took out a pistol, and slammed it on the table. Whoever wants to snatch people from me will shoot me first. Calm down, Mr. Free, he's just an ordinary maintenance technician, why bother? Nickel advised, but he was secretly happy in his heart. He was very happy to make Old Free so angry, because it was always Old Free who made him angry, and now he finally had a chance to retaliate. An ordinary maintenance technician? Which ordinary maintenance technician can recite a 2,000-page maintenance manual word for word in 3 days? Which ordinary maintenance technician can independently assemble a mecha after studying for a month? Which ordinary maintenance technician can choose a complete mecha from the rubble of hundreds of mechas? Anyway, I can't. I have been in this base for 10 years, and I have been doing mecha maintenance work for 30 years, but I have never seen such a talented mecha maintenance technician. With him here, even if the damage rate of the base's mechas doubles in a year, there is nothing to be afraid of. Such a talent, you let him go to die. While cursing, Old Free banged on the table with his pistol, scaring the people next to him. Fearing that the pistol would go off accidentally, Old Free's words silenced everyone. From his description, Xia Xingchen was a true genius, and his future achievements would be limitless, no matter which department he was in. Lieutenant Colonel Nickel thought for a while and said, although your logistics department is safe, the promotion is too slow. I forced this guy into your department. Maybe he doesn't want to be a maintenance technician all his life. I have an idea. We should ask for his opinion and let him choose for himself. Everyone nodded, and Old Free snorted, and sat on the chair. Although he was very angry, Nickel's proposal was indeed difficult to refute. Watchster is a shabby place. If you are slow to get promoted, you may stay in this damn place for the rest of your life. This is really unfair to a 16-year-old child. Xia Xingchen was taken out of the confinement room. He was very puzzled. It was less than 3 days. The military police unlocked his handcuffs and took him to the conference room. Xia Xingchen saluted. Report. Private Xia Xingchen is here to report. Xia Xingchen, let me ask you a question. Do you like mecha maintenance? Nickel asked. Yes, sir. I like it very much and can learn a lot. Xia Xingchen replied. Old Free had a slight smile on his face at this time. Then do you like driving a mecha to fight and become a mecha division? Yes, sir. This is my dream and every man's dream. Hearing this, Old Free's smile froze and then his face turned green. Now, you must make a choice. First, continue to stay in the logistics department as a mecha repairman. Although promotion is slow, it is very safe. Second, go to the 06th Mecha Squadron to be a mecha master. You may encounter danger and fierce battles, and you may lose your life at any time. How you will develop in the future depends on your choice. Think about it carefully. Chapter 41 Father Free. Xia Xingchen fell into deep thought. Only by joining the 06th Mech Squad and becoming a real Mech Master can he have military merits, become stronger faster, get promoted, and have the opportunity to leave here and go to a bigger stage. However, Old Free opened another door for him, allowing him to understand mechas from another perspective. A Mech Master who knows how to design, repair, and manufacture mechas will have unlimited possibilities in the future. There are enough reasons to choose any path, but there will be regrets. More than a dozen pairs of eyes in the conference room focused on him, waiting for his answer. I want to be a Mech Master. I want to fight. Hearing his answer, Old Free slumped in his chair, his eyes full of despair. But I still want to continue to learn about mech maintenance from Sergeant Free. This is also very important to me, and will make me stronger. There was a hint of expectation in Old Free's eyes. What kind of choice is this? Lieutenant Colonel Nickel was puzzled. I hope to stay in the logistics department and continue to learn from Sergeant Free during the rest of the time outside of training and patrolling. Xia Xingchen gave his answer. Okay, I agree. Lieutenant Tor spoke first. In the early stage, we will only let him participate in training and patrols, and he will not be required to participate in combat missions for the time being. He can use all the rest of the time freely. Lieutenant Tor thought very clearly. If he completely snatched the person, He would offend the logistics department. Although he would not use means such as missing a bolt or cutting a few wires, it would be terrible to be bullied. For example, they were arranged to be the last in maintenance, or they were not given good equipment to use. Such bullying was unacceptable. Moreover, if there was a mecha maintenance technician in the team, it would be more secure in completing various tasks. Okay, that's it. I approve it. Transfer his file to the mecha brigade. Lieutenant Colonel Nickel made the decision on the spot. Old Free suddenly stood up, walked in front of Tor, and stared into his eyes. You must take good care of this kid for me. If he has any problems, I guarantee that your 06 team will not have a complete mecha again. I keep my word. Tor answered firmly. Old Free turned and left. Night fell, but in the maintenance workshop warehouse on the 3rd floor underground, there seemed to be no difference between day and night. Old Free was sitting at the door of the warehouse, and the floor was full of wine bottles. Xia Xingchen was afraid that he would drink too much and get into trouble, so she wanted to go over and persuade him. Sergeant, come, sit down, and drink with me. Old Free interrupted him and handed him a bottle of wine. Sergeant, you drank too much. Don't call me Sergeant. Now, we are not superiors and subordinates. Let me tell you a story. Would you like to listen? There was a hint of resentment in Old Free's tone. Xia Xingchen nodded. 10 years ago, I was just over 40 years old. At that time, I was a senior mecha maintenance engineer in the after-sales service department of Tang Dynasty Group. I had a job that everyone envied, a prominent social status, a gentle and lovely wife, and a son. At that time, he was about the same age as you are now. My son is very smart and has been fascinated by mechas since he was a child. He is also very talented in mecha maintenance. I have trained him since he was a child and want to pass on all my life's learning to him. My wife is a columnist for Galaxy Travel Network. Her job is to travel around the planets in the Milky Way, find tourist attractions, and write some recommended articles. When my son is on vacation, she will take my son to travel around. That summer 10 years ago. At this point, Old Free sobbed. 10 years ago, my wife and son came to the Yuan Wangxing space station. She wanted to make a plan for an expedition to the Death Star region. Just when they completed their mission and were about to return home, their passenger ship was hijacked by interstellar pirates, and then all the people on the ship were killed. Old Free was already sobbing. When I heard the bad news, my world collapsed. I came here and found out that the interstellar pirate group that killed them was called Reptile Gang, and their leader was called Yuri, nicknamed Scorpion Snake. He was very cruel and cunning. After their space fleet was destroyed by the military, the Reptile Gang came to Watchstar, entrenched in this desert, and became sand pirates. I quit my job, joined the army, and applied to come to this dangerous Watchstar, just to avenge my wife and son. Xingchen, from the moment I saw you, I thought of my son. I don't want you to be like my son, and lose your life here at a young age, and throw it on the battlefield. At this moment, Old Free burst into tears. Xia Xingchen didn't expect that this old man with a weird temper actually carried such a heavy blood feud. Thinking of the days he spent with him, although he was extremely strict with himself, even harsh, but everything he did was for his own good. He was also infected by Old Free and shed tears of emotion. I understand, Free. Dad. Please let me call you Free Dad. I understand your painstaking efforts. Don't worry, I will take good care of myself. I will continue to make myself stronger and become the most powerful mecha pilot and the best mecha maintenance technician. I will avenge you. Dad. Free was very moved, and the two hugged each other tightly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42 Phase 1 Testing. In the training center on the underground floor of the quicksand base, several members of the 06th Mech squad gathered around the Mech simulator. They were very interested in this new member. After all, his record was so eye-catching that the people of the 07th squad couldn't even raise their heads in the base. The 06th Mech squad had a total of 5 members. Captain Tor, codenamed Bloodstain, was a heavy mecha assaulter of the 06th Squad. He was responsible for resisting artillery fire and rushing into the enemy's position for close combat during the battle. Sniper Perlo, codenamed Veterinarian, was a blonde handsome guy who worked as a veterinarian on a farm in his hometown for a period of time before joining the army. It was he who checked the injuries of Xia Xingchen and Freya last time. Haji was the deputy sniper and tactical commander. This young man was very thin, with chestnut hair and freckles all over his face. His codename was Conspirator. Heavy firepower Barak, a guy who looked dull at ordinary times, but was very crazy when fighting. Codenamed Mortar. However, the record displayed on the big screen at this time was very cruel. Tor and his record was 99:0. Xia Xingchen found that, although he could drive the mecha on the simulator, the inside skill and mental telekinesis had completely lost their effects. Without the assistance of the inside skill, he showed his rookie nature. He was slaughtered by Tor. What's going on? Perlo asked, puzzled. There are two possibilities. One is that this guy was super lucky last time and guessed that move. The second possibility is that he is the kind of person who is very sensitive to danger. There is no real danger on the simulator, and his potential has not been brought into play. Haji made a very rational analysis. Although he didn't know Xia Xingchen's ability, his analysis was almost right. Tor took off his helmet and exited the simulator. How do you feel, Captain? Perlo asked. A complete rookie, with a very brave fighting style and good mental control of the mecha, but no actual combat experience, let alone any combat skills. Xia Xingchen came to Tor. Captain, I'm sorry to disappoint you. Tor patted him on the shoulder. Boy, I can see that you are a novice, but you are much better than most rookies. What you lack is experience. Don't lose heart. Captain, what should I do? Tor thought for a while and said, I have two methods here, but there may be side effects. The first method is to watch actual combat videos and mecha fighting competitions to gain experience. The second method is to continue to fight against others and improve yourself through being abused. However, this has a side effect. Generally, if a rookie is abused too much, he is likely to develop a sense of inferiority and fear. Are you sure you can bear it? Captain, I just want to grow up as soon as possible. As long as I can become stronger, it doesn't matter what method I use. Tor nodded. You are now level 10 and can take the D-level mecha division qualification exam. In our base, other mecha teams only have 1 or 2 D-level mecha divisions, while in our 06th mecha team, everyone is a D-level mecha division. Our simulator has a D-class mecha master exam simulation software. You can try it first and do some targeted exercises. This is very helpful for improving your basic skills and mecha operation techniques. If possible, get the D-class pilot qualification as soon as possible so that your treatment and military rank will be greatly improved, and it will also be helpful for future promotion. Xia Xingchen nodded. He put on the sensor helmet again and entered the D-class mecha master simulation test system. A video popped up on the screen at this time, briefly introducing the content of the Mecha Master D-Class test. The D-Class Mecha Master test is divided into 3 stages. The first stage is the endurance and operation test. The driver will drive a mecha in a channel for 1 hour. Various obstacles will continue to appear in this channel, and the Mecha Master must control the mecha in time to avoid them. If you fail to reach the designated location after 1 hour, or your mental strength is exhausted in less than 1 hour, or the mecha damage rate, an intuitive quantitative indicator obtained after a comprehensive analysis of the degree of damage to each part of the mecha, exceeds 80%, you will be eliminated. The second stage is combat in a complex environment. Mecha masters will drive mechas in 6 types of terrains: space stations, asteroid belts, cities, deserts, forests, and seas, and destroy 4 mechas within 20 minutes. These mechas are controlled by computers and have the strength close to that of D-level mecha masters. The third stage is actual combat. The pilots who pass the first 2 tests will fight in groups of 4, 2 by 2, and the last remaining pilot will be qualified as a D-level mecha master. Many mecha masters due to bad luck, are grouped with opponents who are much stronger than themselves, resulting in failure to pass the exam, and can only wait until next year. Each person can only take the Mecha Master level exam once a year. After watching the introduction of the video, Xia Xingchen understood how the pass rate of D-level Mecha Masters is less than 1%. You must choose a mecha before the D-level test begins. The database contains thousands of general mechas, all of which are basic models, without modified machines and private customized mechas, in order to ensure the fairness of the test. After all, mechas are not common goods, and it is not easy for a D-level Mecha Master to operate a mecha very skillfully. Xia Xingchen chose a ranger, and the color was also white, because the ranger was the only military mecha he had ever come into contact with, and he would also drive the ranger in the 06th Mecha Squadron. At the beginning of the first stage of the test, a passage appeared in front of him. This passage was 10 meters high and wide enough for 3 mechas to run in parallel. Xia Xingchen took a deep breath and the ranger mecha began to run forward. Just after running a few hundred meters, the mecha's feet suddenly softened, and the ranger's body fell forward more than 10 meters under the action of inertia, and the mecha's integrity rate dropped by 10% instantly. He then discovered that the road surface of the passage had changed from alloy road surface to soft sand, and the legs of the mecha were all stuck in it, so it fell. Xia Xingchen smiled bitterly and said, "This is really a show of power." The ranger got up and continued to run forward. This time, he kept paying attention to the changes in the road surface. The road surface kept switching between alloy, cement, desert, mud, water, ice, snow, gravel and other roads, and obstacles slowly appeared. Either a big tree, or a boulder of several cubic meters, or a scrap mecha. Xia Xingchen could only concentrate highly, and the mecha's forward speed also dropped greatly. There was a stone cone obstacle in front of him. These half-meter high spiked stone cones were only 1 or 2 meters apart. Every time the mecha's legs hit the stone cones, the integrity of the mecha would decrease a little. Xia Xingchen forced himself to control the ranger mecha to dodge carefully. Suddenly, a secret door opened at the top of the passage, and a 1 cubic meter sized boulder fell down. Xia Xingchen only looked down at the road, and was not careful for a moment. The boulder hit the head of the mecha. The screen was full of fire, and a dialog box popped up. The machine exploded. The test failed. Zixu, it's really hell. Xia Xingchen cursed. He had an idea in his mind at this time. If only he could use the inside skill. But another voice in his heart reminded himself that the inside skill was a golden finger. Although it was important, it should not be overly relied on. Moreover, the inside skill consumed a lot of mental power, and he couldn't maintain that state all the time. Only by constantly honing yourself, making the mecha control proficient become a combat instinct, developing good combat habits, and then supplemented by the inside skill, can you become stronger. Xia Xingchen spent the whole afternoon struggling with the simulator. Although he did not use the inside skill, he felt that his mental strength was running out. After concentrating for a long time, the machine crashed dozens of times this afternoon, and the longest one only lasted 10 minutes, before falling into the crack in the ground that suddenly opened under his feet. Chapter 43 Desert Goddess Bar. In the evening, Xia Xingchen, who was deeply shocked, returned to the maintenance warehouse dejectedly. Father Free drank, and looked at him with a smile. "Boy, how do you feel about being a pilot on your first day?" "Father, Xia Xingchen described his experience today to him. Father Free squinted his eyes and thought for a while, and suddenly asked, "You have awakened your mental power, right? How do you know?" Xia Xingchen was surprised to be exposed by someone. When I was in Tang Dynasty Group, I often participated in private mecha customization projects. I have come into contact with many mecha masters who have awakened their mental power, and I smell the same smell from you. The action you made when fighting 2 mechas can only be done by a mecha master at your level. Father is really sharp-eyed, but please keep it a secret for me. I don't want to be caught and dissected. Don't worry, I know the stakes. But you are the only one who awakened your mental power before level 20, so you are still a monster. Dad, can I use my telekinesis in the simulator? Xia Xingchen asked. There is no technical problem. I often participate in the customization of mechas and simulators for telekinetic mecha masters. Just add a program, and it will be fine. He thought for a moment and said, however, I don't recommend you to do that. What you need now is to lay a foundation. Using telekinesis now is cheating. And there is an old saying on Earth, that those who drown are those who can swim. Most of the deaths of mecha masters with telekinesis are related to their over-reliance on telekinesis. In addition, many mecha masters with telekinesis are too conceited and have no fear. You know, there are many things that can kill technicians on the battlefield. Without awe, death is not far away. Xia Xingchen nodded silently. Come with me. Father Free threw down the bottle and came to the operating table. At this time, 4 mechas were parked in front of the operating table. There are 5 types of mechas in the quicksand base. From today on, I will disassemble and assemble one type of mecha for you every night. If you try hard, I know you will learn it. He put on the universal repair mechanical arm and started working. For the next 5 days, Xia Xingchen was tortured in the simulator during the day and learned to disassemble and assemble mechas at night. He only had 3 or 4 hours a day to meditate. By the 6th day, his mental state was already very bad. Despite this, he still walked towards the simulator. Tor patted him on the shoulder from behind. Oh, Captain, what are your instructions? Today and tomorrow, it's our turn for the 6th team to rest. Don't train. Tor said. The members of the quicksand base have 2 days off every week. But Xia Xingchen instinctively wanted to refuse. Xingchen, I know you work hard, but look at your current state. I bet you can't even last 5 minutes on the simulator now. This kind of training will not have any effect. Tor persuaded. Xia Xingchen also fell silent. He continued, fatigue can make it difficult for people to concentrate and lead to mistakes. A soldier on the battlefield must learn to rest and seize every opportunity to rest. Even if there are gunshots everywhere outside, it is time to go to bed. Now is the time for you to rest. Nerves that are too tense for too long will break. Xia Xingchen wanted to explain, but Lieutenant Tor frowned. Private Xia Xingchen, go to the bar for a drink with your teammates, and then go back and get a good sleep. This is an order. Yes, sir. The Desert Goddess Bar is located next to a small pond on the surface of the base. It covers an area of more than 300 square meters. It is called a bar, but it is actually just an activity room. The bar is equipped with televisions, game consoles, chess, and card tables and other facilities. But there is no Desert Goddess in the bar, not even a waitress. The owner, Li Xiang, is a retired veteran. He is nearly 2 meters tall, with explosive muscles full of power. His face is dark, and he looks like a hairless black bear. It was morning time, and there were only a dozen soldiers in the bar playing cards and chatting. Ha, Liu Xiang, let me introduce you to our team's new partner, Xia Xingchen. Tor greeted enthusiastically. Xingchen, this is Liu Xiang, the owner of the Desert Goddess Bar. Before I came to the base, he was the best heavy armored mecha division in the quicksand base. Hello, young man, you are a celebrity now. I saw your battle the other day. It was amazing. I'm glad to meet you. The place where Ench number 1 fought with the 2 rangers that day was not far from the front of the bar. Li Xiang took the initiative to extend his hand. The 2 clasped their right hands tightly together. Li Xiang's right hand was wearing a glove, and inside the glove was a mechanical palm. Haha, you are surprised, right? This palm of mine is fake. I accidentally got stained with sandworm venom during the battle, and I cut it off myself. And my 2 legs are all fake. He introduced carelessly, as if he was talking about a trivial matter. Xia Xingchen immediately respected him. Old Xiang, the same rules. I want a bottle of Overwatch vodka with 65 degrees, and a bottle of dark beer each for Beric and Perlo. Haji doesn't drink alcoholic beverages, so just give him a glass of soda water, and then 2 plates of your best grilled scorpion meat. Xingchen, what do you want? I'll treat you. Tor asked. I'll have dark beer too. Xia Xingchen said. Hey, Xingchen, you are not yet 18 years old, and cannot drink alcoholic beverages. Perlo teased. You veterinarian, you want me to throw you into the pond for a bath again, right? Li Pai threatened. Xingchen, don't worry about drinking. In my place, no one will dare to stop you, even if you feed vodka to a baby. Otherwise, you can ask those masters on the space station to catch me. Do you dare to come? Ha ha ha. Li Pai's hearty laughter attracted the attention of other people in the bar. The people of Team 06 took the drinks and sat down at a table by the window. Come on, cheers to our new member Xia Xingchen. Tor raised his glass and said, welcome. Cheers. Xingchen, let me tell you, there is no mediocre guy in our Team 06. Boy, I'm optimistic about you. Exclamation mark. Perlo got a little drunk after drinking a little alcohol and started talking nonsense. Chapter 44 Bar Battle. There are always some unwelcome people in this world who spoil your mood when you are in the best mood. The 5 people drank and chatted, and Xia Xingchen praised Li Xiang's secret sauce roasted scorpion meat. At this time, a young man in his 20s stood up from a table not far away. He came to Xia Xingchen's table. He looked at him with a very unfriendly look. Are you Xia Xingchen? The young man's tone was full of disdain. It's me. Who are you? I'm Nisong, deputy captain of the 05th Mecha squad. You blew up my brother Nibei's mecha last week, making him very embarrassed and unable to raise his head in the base. I want to challenge you. I want to prove in front of everyone that you are just a rookie with better luck. The young man said. Nisong, didn't your captain teach you how to be a man? You are also an old mecha master. You are so shameless to come out and bully a rookie. Tor mocked from the side. Captain Tor, if your 06 team is afraid, just let Xia Xingchen give in and admit his mistake to my brother, and the matter will be over. Of course, if you are afraid that he will lose, you can also stand up for him. Nisong used words to squeeze Tor, making him embarrassed to take action. After saying this, if Tor took action, it would mean that the 06 team was afraid. Fuck your mother. Perlo was enraged by this and picked up the bottle to fight. Several teammates of Nisong's 05th Mecha team also gathered around at this time. Tor and several others stood up, and the two groups glared at each other, and the battle was about to break out. Xia Xingchen stopped Perlo, turned around, and said to Nisong, okay, I accept your challenge. What do you want to compete in? Mecha fighting or real life park? But if you want to fight, play for real, don't use a simulator. Then let's have a real life park. It's too much trouble to use a mecha, and you have to apply in advance, and it may not be approved. Let's solve it here. Nisong was very pleased to see Xia Xingchen took the bait. Don't you need to tell brother Li Pai before fighting here? Xia Xingchen turned around and asked his teammates. Haha, the rules of the desert goddess are that, as long as you don't use guns, you can fight alone, or in a group. The only requirement is that the losing party must bear all the losses of the bar and come here to clean up during the break. So, no matter how you fight, you must win. Exclamation mark. Haji explained. The two stood in the middle of the bar. Nisong took an attacking stance, while Xia Xingchen put his hands behind his back, looking very relaxed. Nisong took the lead in launching an attack. He feinted twice and hit Xia Xingchen in the face with a straight right punch. Xia Xingchen entered the insight mode. He saw the opponent's fist coming slowly. He slightly dodged the fist, and then hit Nisong's abdomen with all his strength with his right fist. A sharp pain came, and Nisong's body hunched over, covering his stomach with both hands. Xia Xingchen took the opportunity to raise his arm, aimed his elbow at his back, and Nisong was knocked to the ground immediately. At this moment, he suddenly heard a bad wind behind his head. It turned out that Nisong's teammate swung a chair horizontally and hit the back of his head. Xia Xingchen was furious. It was supposed to be a one-on-one fight. Why did it turn into a group fight? Moreover, this man not only attacked him by surprise, but also used ruthless force. If his head was hit, he would suffer very serious injuries. He quickly sank down to avoid the sneak attack of the chair, then quickly bounced up and kicked the attacker between his legs. Bang! Ah, my balls are broken, the man screamed and fell to the ground covering his little dick with both hands. The other three teammates of Nisong rushed over together. Bang! Plop! Ouch! Crash. Ah. Crash. It turned out that the teammates of Team 06 took action. Beric's lightning fast straight punch hit one person's nose. The man was knocked unconscious on the spot. His nose was broken, and his body flew several meters away and hit the table heavily. Another person was tripped by Haji's trick while running. Then Haji picked up a wine bottle and hit him on the back of the head. The man screamed and tried to struggle. Haji picked up another wine bottle. At this time, Xia Xingchen was facing the captain of Team 05 directly. He rushed over and kicked Xia Xingchen sideways. This is a combat skill with great power. 1 kick, 2 kicks, 3 kicks. Xia Xingchen paid attention to his attack. At this time, the captain made a move to lift his body into the air and sweep across the air. The opportunity came, and Xia Xingchen's eyes lit up. He turned his body to the side and kicked the captain in the waist. The captain was kicked several meters away with a wow and knocked over many tables. Xia Xingchen clapped his hands and said, "You, Team 05, are only this good. What about the one-on-one duel?" The members of Team 06 turned away playfully. A bunch of onlookers looked at each other in bewilderment. In a closed environment like the quicksand base, with limited personnel, it is the most suitable soil for the spread of gossip. The fight that just happened in the morning spread to several bases a few hours later. "Hey, did you hear that Team 05 was beaten by Team 06 at the Desert Goddess, and they won?" Nonsense. It was obviously Xia Xingchen who beat them alone. 1 against 5 what? You don't even know Xia Xingchen. It was that logistics department who drove Mecha 1 on 2 and beat that guy. Do you think Nebo is a disaster? He has already made Team 07 lose face, and now he has dragged his brother and Team 05 down. Fortunately, I had foresight and didn't choose him. Let me tell you, Team 06 had a fight in a bar in the past 2 or 3 years. One of them fought more than 30 infantrymen and won. They are not human. There is another monster this time. Don't mess with them in the future. You really can't beat them. After lunch, Xia Xingchen came to the mecha maintenance warehouse to practice disassembling and assembling mechas. As a result, he was stopped by Father Free at the door of the warehouse. "Xingchen, I received a call from Captain Tor. He is right. What you need most now is rest. Today and tomorrow, I forbid you to step into the maintenance workshop and the mecha maintenance warehouse. You can go back to sleep, meditate, or masturbate. In short, you must rest immediately." Father Free said seriously. "Dad, I'm fine. I rested for a whole morning, and I'm very energetic now." Xia Xingchen explained. Come on. I've seen everything. Fighting can't dispel fatigue. Go and rest. This is an order." "Yes." Xia Xingchen replied weakly. "Take this. It will help you sleep," the old man said, throwing him a bottle. It turned out to be a bottle of white wine. After drinking half a bottle of white wine, Xia Xingchen lay on the bed and fell asleep. He dreamed of the crystal pyramid. Chapter 45 Mental Strength Test. When he woke up, it was already noon the next day. Xia Xingchen had lunch and meditated for 7 or 8 hours, but he felt that his mental power had not fully recovered. Moreover, his mental power level had not been upgraded again. After reaching level 15, he found Father Free and raised his doubts. "Father, I feel that there seems to be something wrong with my mental power." "Why do you say that?" "After my mental power level reached level 15, it has not been upgraded again for a long time, and no matter how I meditate, my mental power cannot reach the full level." Xia Xingchen said. "How long have you not upgraded?" Father asked. Several weeks, less than a month." Bang! Father Free smashed a thick book in his hand on his head. "Little bastard is really greedy. Most people can only upgrade 1 level per year. After reaching level 10, and the higher the level, the slower the upgrade. What else do you want?" Less than a month. A monster like Xia Xingchen irritated the old man. "I just want to improve faster, but why is my mental power always dissatisfied?" Dad thought for a long time and said, "I don't know either. Let me put it this way. I have participated in a project of Tang Dynasty group before, and made a mental analyzer. This is for those mecha masters above level A. Now the materials are limited, and the performance will be worse, but it is almost enough for you. Wait for me for a few days and I will check the equipment for you." In a blink of an eye, another week has passed. Xia Xingchen can last for 40 minutes in the first stage of the test. His teammates are also surprised by his progress, because the difficulty of the test increases as time goes by. He also spent 6 nights to disassemble and assemble the other 4 types of mechas in the base. Finally, on Sunday, Daddy Free informed him that the mental analyzer was ready. This is a helmet-like device connected to a large computer. He sat in a chair, put on the helmet, and connected his nerves to the computer. It seemed that a screen lit up in front of him, with many interesting questions on it. The system required him to complete these questions step by step according to the prompts. For example, there is a 60-degree slope and a big iron ball. The iron ball can be pushed up the slope with mental power. What he has to do is to push the iron ball as high as possible. After going through more than a dozen such small games, soft music came out of the helmet, which guided Xia Xingchen into a meditative state. Ding. An electronic reminder sounded, interrupting his meditation. He took off his helmet and looked at the time. It was already 5 hours later. Zizzy. The printer connected to the device printed out nearly 3 meters of test data. Old Free analyzed the data attentively. After a long time, he raised his head. Your mental power data is indeed a bit strange. Let me tell you in detail. Mental power is a very illusory thing for humans. Although it has been studied for hundreds of years, progress is still slow. People can only infer their mental power level according to the changes in mental power, but how much mental power each level has always been a big problem that has troubled mankind. It was not until more than a decade ago that a scientist named Freud solved the problem of mental power quantification and measurement. The unit of mental power was also named Freud, abbreviated as F. 1 unit of mental power is called 1 Fu. Taking the average level of human mental power as an example, the total mental power of a level 9 mental power user is 10 Fu, and when the mental power level is raised to level 10, the total mental power will have a leap and can reach 100 Fu. After that, the total mental power will increase by 100 Fu for each level of mental power, and so on. When it reaches level 19, the mental power level will reach 1000 Fu. But level 19 to level 20 is another watershed. When the mental power level reaches level 20, the total mental power is an average of 2000 Fu, and those mecha masters who have awakened their mental power can reach a total mental power of 2500 to 3000 Fu at this time. Now Xia Xingchen is level 15 mental power, and the total mental power should normally be around 600 Fu, but now Xia Xingchen's total mental power has reached an astonishing 5800 Fu. And humans consume mental power through operating mechas, learning and other activities, which requires meditation to recover. Without the help of drugs and meditation instruments, there is a calculation formula for the meditation value that can be restored after 1 hour of meditation. The total amount of mental power is divided by 1000 and then multiplied by his meditation value. The data obtained is the mental power data restored by this person after 1 hour of meditation. For example, if a person's total mental power is 100 and his meditation value is 50, then the meditation power value he restores after 1 hour of meditation is 100/1000 x 50 equals 5 points. But something very strange happened to Xia Xingchen. According to the formula, his current meditation power should restore 522 Freuds of meditation power per hour, but according to the data detected by the instrument, he can restore more than 2000 Freuds of mental power per hour. But the more strange thing is that these 2000 Freuds of mental power seem to be absorbed by something, and finally less than 200 points can be stored in his body. Xia Xingchen has to consume several thousand Freuds of mental power every day recently, which makes him feel that his mental power is always dissatisfied. Father Free was worried about this phenomenon, but Xia Xingchen didn't care. He knew that the spiritual power was absorbed by the crystal pyramid. With the nourishment of spiritual power, the pyramid would continue to develop new functions, and in times of crisis, the pyramid could release these spiritual powers again. However, the only thing that satisfied Father Free was that for ordinary people below level 20, it would take about 3 days of meditation for the total amount of spiritual power to increase a little, while Xia Xingchen's total amount of spiritual power would increase a little for every hour of meditation. In other words, his growth rate when practicing was nearly 10 times that of others. Father was looking forward to seeing how Xia Xingchen would grow. Through these data, Xia Xingchen roughly understood the situation of his spiritual power and dispelled his concerns. Thank you, Father. It seems that I'm still normal. He breathed a sigh of relief. Is it normal? I don't think it's normal. Are you a human or an alien? How can a human have such data? Do you have alien blood? Xia Xingchen was choked by his father's words. The old man packed up the printed data, took out the hard drive from the testing equipment, and threw them all into a small incinerator. Then he said to Xia Xingchen seriously, "You can't tell this to anyone, including your colleagues and family, otherwise it will bring you fatal disaster." Xia Xingchen nodded solemnly. Chapter 46 Simulated Space Battle. Another week passed. Xia Xingchen finally passed the first stage of the D-Class Mecha Master exam. These 3 weeks of training have made him control the Ranger to perfection. He consolidated for a few more days before preparing for the second stage of the test. The simulator popped up the first scene, which was on a space station without gravity. The opponents were 4 night sky mechas controlled by computers. Xia Xingchen had to find and destroy these 4 mechas within 20 minutes. The Night Sky Mecha was a general-purpose mecha specially designed for space combat launched by the Europa Military Industry Group in recent years. From the data, it has a strength of 8, agility of 15, and armor of 10. It has superior speed and stealth performance, and it also has a very advanced fire control system, which is very suitable for long-range attacks. The main weapons of the Night Sky are 2 laser rifles, 4 laser secondary guns, and 16 macro-tracking missiles in the magazine on the back of the mecha. It can also carry a mecha-specific long-range laser sniper rifle, 2 medium-range anti-mecha missiles and a heavy anti-ship missile according to different mission requirements. Xia Xingchen chose the air combat equipment of the Ranger mecha. This equipment is equipped with 6 variable angle thrusters on the back of the Ranger, 4 small thrusters on the chest, and 4 macro thrusters on the legs. Because there is no air resistance in space, the mecha can only rely on thrusters to change direction. Diamond Shield, mecha-specific enhanced laser rifle, beam sword, to combat knives. The screen flashed, and the mecha was ejected from the space station. He started the thrusters on his chest, and the mecha slowly slowed down. Xia Xingchen was driving a mecha in space for the first time, and wanted to do a few moves, to get a feel for it. Suddenly, an alarm sounded. This was the sound of the mecha being locked by radar. He quickly pulled up the mecha to find the opponent's position. Suddenly, 4 lasers shot from the left. He instinctively raised his shield to block it, and 3 lasers were blocked. A laser hit the left leg of the mecha, and the left leg exploded instantly. Due to the lack of thrusters on the left leg, the Ranger turned in circles in space. At this time, a thicker laser shot from somewhere, and hit the back of the mecha, and the Ranger exploded instantly. Xia Xingchen exited the system depressed. Only then did he realize that Tor was watching his battle next to him. "Captain, take the video and follow me to the team headquarters," Tor said, turning around and leaving. Each mecha team in the quicksand base has a team headquarters. This is a suite of more than 100 square meters, with complete facilities such as bathrooms and kitchens. There is an office, a conference room, and a living room inside. Generally, team members will be on standby here when they are on combat duty. The two came to the conference room, and Tor imported the video of Xia Xingchen's battle just now into the video player. The two watched it repeatedly many times. It turned out that the Ranger was ejected and took a long time to adjust his posture. At this time, a hidden night sky mecha hidden on the surface of the space station launched an attack on him and fired 4 lasers. This is the secondary gun of the night sky. The Ranger did not dodge, but chose to use his shield to block. As a result, a laser blasted his left leg, and the mech lost balance. At this time, another night sky mech ambushed on a piece of space junk not far away used a long-range laser sniper rifle to kill the Ranger. "Tell me, how do you feel?" Tor asked. "Very helpless, very depressed, no power to fight back, no idea where the opponent came from, and the mech exploded. Let me tell you a few mistakes you made. First, there are no shelters or places to borrow strength in space, so there is only one principle in space battles. That is, you cannot stop or slow down. The reason why you have so many thrusters on your mech is to make it easier for you to change direction at high speed, not to use chest thrusters to slow down like you did. Second, the first choice when being attacked in space battles should be to dodge at high speed, not to block with a shield. Why is a night sky mech not equipped with a shield? Because it makes no sense. Using a shield to block means you have to slow down or even lose balance, and you are not far from death. Third, in space battles, especially for night sky mechas, radar and optical imaging detectors are completely useless, and heat source detectors are just a reference. If you want to determine the position of your opponent, first use terrain scanning. Focus on which ambush locations are easy to exploit, and then use heat source detectors to quickly determine the position of your opponent. Fourth, all operations must be completed while moving. Find targets, shoot, and dodge while moving. You must also be careful not to crash into the space station while moving at high speed. Lieutenant Tor pointed out more than 20 deficiencies and matters that need to be paid attention to in space warfare. Xia Xingchen was very satisfied listening to it. At the same time, he was also impressed by Sergeant Tor's rich practical experience. In the following 10 days, he was immersed in the quagmire of space warfare. In addition to being abused by the computer every day, the other 4 teammates also joined in. These 4 guys are all genuine D-level mecha masters. Tor's fierce melee attack, Polo's accurate long-range sniping, Haj's varied conspiracies, and Beric, who became crazy when he got on the mecha, made him suffer. After being abused for a whole day, he was arranged to go to the maintenance workshop at night. Every day, 10 mechas with various faults would be left here for him to repair. Xia Xingchen laid a solid foundation in the first stage of training. In addition, several sparring partners were very high in level. In just 1 week, he could easily pass the computer test battle. After a few more days, he could even counterattack easily under the attack of his teammates. Although he was still destroyed in the end, he also impressed his teammates. On this day, he found Tor again and prepared to proceed to the next map of the second phase of testing. He took the initiative to request to choose the Desert Gobi terrain. Once he had fully mastered the combat in this terrain, he could join his teammates in patrol duty. Chapter 47 Mecha Modification. Late at night, Corporal Xia Xingchen was busy in the maintenance workshop. Recently, the activities of the Sand Bandits have become more rampant. In just over a month, the Quicksand base has fought with the bandits dozens of times. 3 mecha masters of the Mecha Brigade have been killed this month. It has been half a year since he came to the Quicksand base, and Xia Xingchen has passed all the simulation tests for the D-level Mecha Master assessment. Now he and several teammates can fight evenly in the simulator. Moreover, he has joined the patrol duty of the 06th Mecha team since 2 months ago and has a record of destroying 2 mechas of the Sand Bandits. Now he has been promoted to corporal. After finally repairing the last mecha, he found that Father Free was looking at him with a smile. "Dad, you are still awake. You kid, didn't I tell you to leave some for other maintenance workers? You are so good that you have taken all the work. Those guys are so idle during the day, and I can't stand it anymore." Xia Xingchen smiled embarrassedly. "I was so engrossed in it that I accidentally finished all the repairs. Okay, from today on, you are basically a master in maintenance. Now I want to teach you something new. Come with me." Father Free took Xia Xingchen to his office. "Recently, I asked you to read a lot of information on mecha design. This is not to let you learn how to design a mecha, but to let you understand the design principles and concepts of mechas, and lay the foundation for the technology I will teach you soon, mecha modification." Father Free said solemnly. Xia Xingchen nodded. Mecha modification is not as simple as installing a few strengthening parts, replacing a high-power engine, and adding some weapons. When designing mechas, various military-industrial enterprises have gone through countless tests, and the combination of the body and various components is close to perfect. If you rashly modify it, it will break the balance of the body and cause immeasurable consequences. Then why do so many people want to modify mechas? Xia Xingchen asked, puzzled. That's because the battlefield environment is complex and changeable. In order to make the mecha better adapt to the battlefield environment, corresponding changes have been made. However, most of these changes are at the expense of the performance of the mecha. For example, on some planets with very high temperatures, in order for the mecha to dissipate heat better, some mecha masters will remove part of the armor and replace it with a radiator, which solves the heat dissipation problem, but at the expense of the mecha's protective power. Other mecha masters do this because of personal habits. For example, if some equipment on the mecha is not often used or not used, they simply remove it and replace it with other usable equipment. Xia Xingchen nodded thoughtfully. Father Free continued, there is also a kind of modification called emergency modification. If the mecha is damaged on the battlefield and there are no sufficient spare parts, you can only find a way to replace it. At the most critical moment, even using a cable to replace an integrated system can save lives. But the difficulty lies in that you must fully understand the performance of the mecha before you know what to replace it with. The bandits should be very good at this technology, right? Xia Xingchen remembered the mecha assembled from various debris by Jill, the evil maggot he encountered on the day he arrived at the base. Haha, that's not called modification, it's called assembly. These assembled machines are weak in body structure strength, so if you take the initiative to collide with them a few times, or compete with them in speed, those rubbish will fall apart. Father Free joked. Of course, the highest level of mecha modification is almost the same as redesigning a mecha. But there is no perfect mecha in this world, only the most suitable mecha, so it is perfect for you as a mecha master to master the technology of modifying mecha. At this point, Father Free turned on the computer. The most suitable mecha model for modification in our base is the Ranger. It has a simple structure and a lot of room for upgrading. Look, this is the blueprint. At present, Xia Xingchen is still driving wrench number 1, but the paint of the mecha has been modified. The famous wrench logo has been moved to the left shoulder and shield of the mecha. This was originally a treatment only for ace mecha divisions and team leaders, but Xia Xingchen's 2 battles made him a legend in the quicksand base, and no one questioned it. Only the people in Team 07 always looked a little unnatural when they saw the wrench logo. Look, if we don't use reinforced parts here, other parts, here and here, must be strengthened to ensure that the structure of the body is not affected. Look here, using this kind of material is to save costs, and it can be replaced with a high level. Father Free explained to him the principle of modifying each accessory and what other options are available. After 5 whole nights, Xia Xingchen finally learned the modification technology of the Ranger. Father Free told him that there is no end to the technology of mecha modification. As long as you dare to think and do, nothing is impossible. He stood in front of the operating table, put on the universal maintenance arm, entered the inside state, and Xia Xingchen began to assemble the mecha. Most of the Ranger accessories in front of him have been strengthened and modified, and many accessories come from private customized mechas. In order to modify this mecha, Father Free took out all his savings. There are many senior military mecha masters in the space station who often come here to ask Father Free to help them modify or customize personal mechas. Some of their mechas were scrapped, so they were simply transported to the quicksand base. There are also many private mechas that belong to bounty hunters who came to the Watchstar to encircle and suppress star pirates. They lost their lives here, and the wreckage of the mecha became Father Free's collection. Father Free wanted to build the strongest Ranger for Xia Xingchen so that he could survive on the battlefield as much as possible. For 3 consecutive nights, with the joint efforts of the two, a majestic mecha appeared in front of them. This mecha is still painted white, and the joints and other positions are painted with a more showy golden color. The paint of the mecha is carefully prepared by Father Free. This paint can make this mecha perfectly blend into the background color of the desert, greatly reducing the probability of the mecha being discovered by the opponent's light imaging detector. What's more amazing is that this paint can also quickly make the temperature of the surface of the mecha consistent with the surrounding environment, which will greatly confuse the heat source detector of the opponent's mecha. In addition, it also has the function of absorbing radar waves. Of course, the price of the raw materials for mixing this paint alone is enough to buy 2 mechas. Not only that, Father Free also personally built several weapons and equipment specifically for this mecha. An alloy shield coated with a special reflective coating, a mecha laser rifle with the same size, but a larger firing rate and ammunition capacity. Xia Xingchen personally wrote the operating system and completed the mecha settings. Boy, give your mecha a name, it's yours. Let's call it wrench number 2. Xia Xingchen threw out such a name without thinking. Father Free was furious and grabbed his ear. Little bastard, I spent all my savings for decades to build such a mecha, and you gave it such a cheap name. Are you worthy of me? Xia Xingchen felt aggrieved. I'm not good at naming, so why don't you help me come up with one? Father Free squinted his eyes and thought for a while, then said, the last private mecha I customized for our base was named Bloody Queen. Its owner has some connection with you. This one, let's just call it Desert Knight. Chapter 48 Desert Knight. Xia Xingchen entered the cockpit of the mecha. The layout of the cockpit was similar to that of the Ranger, except that some instruments had become virtual display screens. The cockpit was equipped with an ejection device, and the cockpit armor and life support system had been greatly upgraded. Please name the mecha Desert Knight. Name confirmation please. Set the mecha parameter setting completed. System restart. The golden indicator light on the mecha's eyes lit up. Father Free looked at the mecha and nodded with satisfaction. Desert Knight. Mecha Master Xia Xingchen. The fuselage height is 5.1 meters, and it is a modified Ranger. Parameters: Strength 15, Agility 18, Armor 15, Speed 20. The head of the mecha is integrated with a small phased array radar, terrain scanning radar, optical imaging instrument, heat source detector, laser ranging system, searchlight and other equipment. The back of the mecha is 2 medium-sized vector thrusters and 4 variable angle thrusters. There are 4 macro thrusters on the chest and each leg. The engine is the TC0506 engine developed by Tang Dynasty Group, equipped with a triple fuel cell group, which makes the output power and endurance of the mecha almost double that of the Ranger. In addition, there are 2 folded alloy wings on the back of the mecha, which can provide additional lift when flying in the atmosphere. The edges of the wings are reinforced materials and can be used as beam swords. The weapon system includes an alloy shield, a beam sword, 2 beam knives, and 2 macro laser rapid fire machine guns on the head. It can also be equipped with a laser rifle dedicated to the mecha. Haha, not bad. Kit, go outside and try the mecha. Remember to load live ammunition, and don't forget to activate the IF code. Father Free reminded. Xia Xingchen nodded and began to register the IF code. After the last blunder, Father Free applied for more than a dozen IF codes, so that after assembling a new mecha, he only needs to enter the information of the mecha and activate it. After the mecha was fully charged, Xia Xingchen loaded weapons such as shields and laser rifles, unlocked the console, and the mecha took the elevator to the ground. At this time, the command center was boiling. The duty officer found that someone was registering a new mecha, so he transmitted the information to the big screen. Seeing the parameters, everyone was stunned. This performance is too scary. Is this still a Ranger? Who is the mecha division? Is it the captain? When seeing the information of the mecha division, Lieutenant Colonel Mickle laughed. It's you again, lucky little guy. It seems that you are always willing to give us surprises. The Desert Knight came to the ground, and the entire quicksand base was in an uproar. To cool this mecha. Why don't we have such a mecha? The military is biased. Too showy. It will be shot down as soon as it goes out. Someone else complained. Xia Xingchen calmed down his excitement and adjusted the posture of the mecha. The alloy wings behind the mecha suddenly opened, and the thrusters on the whole body sprayed a large amount of blue flames downward, and the Desert Knight flew into the sky. Under the shining of the starlight, it turned into a golden beam, and bursts of sonic booms came from the sky. What a powerful engine. If my Ranger flies like this, the energy will be exhausted in 5 minutes. The pilots watching in the base were in a very complicated mood. Envy, jealousy, and hatred all mixed together. Xia Xingchen made many rolls, dives, high-speed shooting and other actions in the air. Tore on the ground, watched and nodded frequently. He was very satisfied with the growth rate of this kid. At this time, he had been flying at high speed for more than 10 minutes, and the energy consumption was only 20%. Xia Xingchen was very satisfied. Liasha called Xingchen. Liasha called Xingchen. At this time, a call from headquarters appeared in the communicator. Xingchen was Xia Xingchen's code name for action. Every mecha division had an action code name for easy command. For example, Freya's code name was Blood Rose, and Lieutenant Tor's code name was Bloodmark. Liasha, please speak. The supply convoy of the base was attacked by sand bandits 60 kilometers north of the base. The enemy had 4 mechas, and we only had 1 mecha. There were 20 new recruits in the convoy. Does your mecha have enough energy? Can you participate in the rescue operation? At this time, the gate of the base was wide open, and 2 rangers of the 0-second team flew out. But they were still flying on the ground with the power wheels on the legs of the mechas. It's not that the rangers can't fly, but under the gravity conditions of Watchstar, when they fly to the scene of the incident, their energy will be exhausted. There is no need to fight at all, and they can only be slaughtered. No problem, Liasha, I'll go first. Xia Xingchen said as he stepped on the power pedal, and the desert knight turned into a golden light, and flew to the scene of the incident. Zhu Fei is the mecha master of the 01st mecha team of the Liasha base. He was ordered to participate in this escort operation. It was originally smooth sailing, but when they were about to reach the base, they were attacked by sand bandits. What is even more surprising is that the mecha models of the previous sand bandits were disorganized and filled with a large number of assembled machines, but the 4 mechas encountered this time were 4 Ice Wolf mechas. The Ice Wolf mecha, with a height of 4.9 meters, strength 12, agility 11, and armor 12, is a land combat mecha with very strong comprehensive performance. It is still the main mecha in service on many planets with harsh environments in the Galactic Empire. Although these 4 mechas seem to have some parts of the armor missing, this is by no means caused by inadequate maintenance. It is more like a modification to make the mecha adapt to the gravity environment of the Watchstar. Now Zhu Fei's ranger is entangled by 3 mechas, and the laser rifle of the mecha has been damaged, but the 3 ice wolves do not seem to be in a hurry to destroy him. Instead, they tease their opponents before eating like a cat treats a mouse. Another ice wolf held a mecha in his hand and aimed a shotgun at the convoy. A dire wolf rushed up, and the mecha's 2 arms stretched out sharp alloy claws. Zhu Fei's ranger raised his shield to resist. The ranger's strength was much weaker than the dire wolf, and the mech was forced to retreat far away. At this time, another dire wolf pounced from behind. The ranger was no longer able to dodge, and his right arm was torn. The alloy sword fell to the ground. The 3rd dire wolf also rushed up and kicked the ranger in the waist. The ranger flew out and fell to the ground. The internal alarm of the mech sounded loudly. The mecha's integrity rate was only 30%. The left arm was completely scrapped, and the 2 thrusters behind it were damaged. In the mecha's public band call channel, several sand bandits laughed wildly. Haha, this mech is so cool, it will be more convenient to hunt in the future. Okay, the game time is over. Their reinforcements are coming soon, so hurry up and take care of the aftermath. One of the mech masters who seemed to be the captain said. The 3 dire wolves put away the claws on their arms, took out the shotguns from their backs, and aimed at the ranger who fell to the ground. Zhu Fei fell into deep despair. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49, The Ferocious Demon. A green laser shot from the sky and hit the cockpit of the dire wolf that stopped the convoy. Sparks burst out of the cockpit, and the mecha fell to the ground and never moved again. Enemy attack. At this time, the drivers of the other 3 dire wolves reacted, but at this time, the desert knight was moving at high speed in the sky, and they couldn't see clearly what attacked them. The desert knight hovered over their heads at high speed, and the laser mecha rifle fired continuously, and lasers flew accurately to the 3 mechas. The captain of the dire wolf was experienced. He used a shield to support his head. The engine was fully turned on, and the mecha quickly retreated and instantly dodged the attack. The other 2 dire wolves were each hit by more than a dozen lasers and exploded violently. At this time, the only surviving dire wolf finally found the figure of the desert knight. He raised his shield to cover and picked up his shotgun to fight back. However, the shotgun has a short range and a slow firing rate, which can't threaten the high-speed desert knight at all. Soon the ammunition ran out. It threw away the shotgun, raised its shield, and stretched out its alloy claws with its right hand. It made a provocative gesture. Seeing this, the desert knight landed on the ground not far away, put away its rifle, retracted its wings, raised its shield, held the beam sword in its hand horizontally, stepped on the power pedal, and the mecha rushed towards the dire wolf with a lot of sand and stones. The dire wolf's mecha master is also a veteran. He wants to use the dire wolf's speed and strength advantage to bully the ranger. The mechas collided with each other, and the shields hit each other. The white mecha in front of him did not retreat as expected, but his dire wolf was almost knocked over. Fortunately, he reacted quickly, and waved his right claw to grab the head of the desert knight. At this time, Xia Xingchen did not use the inside skill at all. It may be that the opponent's mecha master's ability is not enough to threaten him. He raised the beam sword to resist, and the two mechas hit the bull. However, in the face of the powerful power of the desert knight, the dire wolf retreated step by step. Seeing that the situation was not good, the dire wolf's mecha master came up with a plan. He suddenly took away the forward force of the mecha. The desert knight rushed forward due to inertia. The dire wolf technician planned to suddenly withdraw the force, to make the opponent lose balance. He was ready to turn around in advance, and attack the rear of the opponent's mecha. At the moment when the two mechas intersected, the flying wings behind the desert knight suddenly opened, and were parallel to the ground. The front end of the flying wing lit up red. At this time, the flying wings turned into two beam swords, which cut into the waist of the dire wolf by inertia. The dire wolf exploded on the spot, and the mecha master died. At this time, the desert knight put away the flying wings and beam swords, picked up the laser mecha rifle, and stopped in place to be on guard. At this time, Xia Xingchen glanced at the screen. There was still 35% energy left, which was enough to fly back to the base. Zhu Fei opened his eyes wide, with a very complicated mood. There was both the joy of escaping death and deep shock, and more of a curiosity. Who was sitting in the mecha? Two columns of smoke rolled up from the direction of the base, and the two rangers of Team 02 arrived late. Xingchen calls Liasha. The target has been eliminated. Xingchen requests to return home. At this time, the command center was boiling. After witnessing such a wonderful battle, everyone was very excited. Lieutenant Colonel Nickel grabbed the microphone of the pager. Great, Xingchen. Liasha allows you to return to the base. Come back soon. Everyone in the base will have an extra meal to celebrate your success tonight. Leave it to you, Xingchen said to the two rangers who came over on the public channel, and the thrusters were fully turned on. Fly back to the base. Many people did not sleep that night. Xia Xingchen and Father Free carefully checked the body and analyzed the combat data. Here, the output of the flight power can be adjusted lower, which can save 5% of energy. Let's add the auxiliary wheels. After all, flying all the time is too wasteful of energy. It would be great if it could be equipped with a macronuclear fusion engine, Xia Xingchen fantasized. When you pass the assessment and become an S-class mecha master, I will install a fusion engine for you, even if I have to sell my kidney. Daddy said sarcastically. You said it. I have reserved your kidney. The atmosphere in the meeting room on the underground floor of the quicksand base was solemn, and the heads of various combat departments held an emergency military meeting here. The battle video of Zhu Fei and Xia Xingchen on the mecha was played repeatedly on the big screen. Although we won this battle, the situation is very serious. The people from the reptile gang actually got the dire wolf. The performance of this mecha even exceeds that of the ranger, and there are experts who have modified them. It is not known where they got the dire wolf from, but it is obvious that our equipment advantage is gone. At this time, a white man sitting next to him spoke. His name is Bessie, and his military rank is also Lieutenant Colonel. He is the captain of the Quicksand Base Mecha Brigade. Captain Bessie is in his early 40s, and is a C-class Mecha Master. Let me say a few words. From the analysis of the video, the strength of these four Mecha Masters exceeds the average level of our base Mecha Masters. They are brave and ferocious in combat, and are very experienced. The Mecha Division of the Captain has reached the level of a D-class Mecha Division. This is worth noting. I suggest that we temporarily increase the number of troops for patrol and escort missions in the future. All combatants' weekly vacations will be shortened to 1 day. Lieutenant Colonel Nickel nodded. We must report this situation to our superiors and instruct the intelligence department to find out the source and number of the other side's mechas. Watchstar. In the desert more than 500 kilometers away from the quicksand base, there is a dry oasis surrounded by dead bushes. Under a mound next to the oasis, a huge underground base is hidden inside. Yuri, the leader of the reptile gang, is furious. This bald, inverted triangular-eyed middle-aged man scolded his men. We took advantage of this meteor shower. The sponsor took a lot of effort to airdrop 40 ice wolves. We recovered 24 intact mechas, but in the first action, we were all wiped out in a 4-2-1 situation. Bidangu, I want an explanation. The man named Bidangu was mainly responsible for the training of the mecha masters in the reptile gang. He was so scared that he trembled all over after hearing what Yuri said. He knew very well how Yuri dealt with his subordinates who did something wrong. Master Yuri, I did send out the most outstanding mecha masters this time, all of whom are close to the D level. There must have been some accident here. Yes, it must have been an accident. Waste is waste. Why are you still quibbling? A bald man said contemptuously. He was the number 1 mecha master of the reptile gang. Although he did not take the exam, he already had the strength of a C level mecha master. You. Bidangu gritted his teeth in anger, but Campbell did not obey anyone except Yuri, and he disliked Bidangu very much, targeting him everywhere. Okay, I hope this is the last time. Bidangu, your men should be trained more fiercely, and don't be afraid of death. Also, don't use the new mecha for the time being, and wait until you understand the situation of the quicksand base. Yes, Master Yuri. Yuri said, and a secret door opened behind him, and Yuri's chair teleported inside. Chapter 50. Wait for me to come back. Yuri entered his secret room, which was filled with various instruments. Yuri entered a long string of passwords in front of an operating table. A few minutes later, a masked figure appeared on the big screen. Yuri, my dear brother, you have received the mechas, and you should also fulfill your promise. But brother, we only received 20 intact mechas. Besides, providing 800 D-class mecha divisions a year is already our limit. 1000 is too much to ask. Yuri explained. Then you go and talk to that adult. He provides you with so much funds and equipment every year. Now the situation is developing very quickly. It is estimated that the adult will launch in the next few years. We still need a large number of warriors. Yuri, if you delay the adult's work because of your incompetence, you, me and the entire family will face a fate more miserable than death. Yes, brother, I understand. I will do my best. The big screen went out, and the room fell into silence. On a rare day of rest, Sergeant Xia Xingchen sat alone by the window of the Desert Goddess Bar, ordered a glass of dark beer, and read a book while drinking. He enjoyed this feeling. Lieutenant Tor walked in, asked for a bottle of vodka, and sat opposite him. How do you feel about being promoted, Sergeant Xia Xingchen? Tor asked teasingly. It's still the same. It's just that the salary has increased by a few thousand star coins, and there are fewer people who need to salute when they meet. Xia Xingchen looked indifferent. Your ability is now sufficient. You can take the D-level mecha qualification exam. After passing the exam, you will feel that the treatment is completely different. Tor smiled. Then I really have to go and see it. Do you need to ask for leave? Just write an application for me, and then I will ask Lieutenant Colonel Nickel to sign it. Tor continued. If you pass the test, you will have a chance to leave here. Every mecha who passes the mecha level exam has the right to apply for transfer from the original unit to a more promising place. Aren't you afraid that I will take the opportunity to run away? Xia Xingchen smiled. To be honest, you are still young. I agree that you should leave this damn place. You can have better growth and a broader stage in other places. Tor said with a smile. Then I have to think about it carefully. Cheers. Cheers. In the evening, Xia Xingchen returned to the maintenance warehouse. Dad, Captain Tor suggested today that I should take the assessment of D-class mecha division immediately. I want to hear your opinion. It's time. Go ahead. Don't forget to bring the desert knight. The last assessment is not to use a simulator. It's too disadvantageous to not bring a handy mecha. Xia Xingchen nodded. Oh, and if you pass the test, find a chance to leave. You've been wasting your time here. Father Free pretended to be nonchalant, but he couldn't hide a trace of loneliness and reluctance in his eyes. Xia Xingchen was silent. The next day, in the office of the commander of the quicksand base, Lieutenant Tor handed over your application to me, and I approved it. You can take the mecha with you. Perform well and don't embarrass the quicksand base. Yes, sir. Xia Xingchen replied. You are a lucky little guy. You have always been lucky. If there is a better development, seize the opportunity and don't hesitate, Lieutenant Colonel Nickel hinted. At this time, Xia Xingchen had already stood up and walked out. He turned his head and said, "What are you talking about? It's incomprehensible. I'm still waiting to come back for promotion." "Okay, no problem. I promise you now," Nickel replied. "However, if the promotion is too small, I won't come back." Xia Xingchen added, "Get out." The next morning, the light of the stars filled the surface of the planet. Outside the quicksand base, several engineering mechas were cleaning up the remains of the stinging scorpion on the outer wall. Last night, thousands of stinging scorpions went crazy for some unknown reason and attacked the base frantically. The elevator reached the ground. The Desert Knight was fully armed, with a flight assistance system installed on the back. It consisted of a set of flying wings, a quad-mounted fuel cell, and 4 thrusters. It can provide continuous flight capabilities. Father Free was still sleeping soundly with a hangover. Xia Xingchen knew that he got himself drunk on purpose. Xia Xingchen turned the thrusters to the maximum and stepped on the power pedal to the bottom. The mecha overcame gravity and slowly rose, then turned into a golden light and flew off into the distance. At this time, in the yard of the quicksand base, the soldiers of the 06th Squad silently saluted. On the tower of the command center, Lieutenant Colonel Nickel silently said in his heart, "Good luck, lucky little guy." On a red mecha in the base yard, Freya thought silently, "Interesting little guy. I wonder if I can see him again." At the door of the Desert Goddess bar, Li Pai shouted to the sky, "Boy, I'll wait for you to come back for a drink." Suddenly, the Desert Knight fired 5 colored flares, and everyone's eyes flashed. The meaning of the colored signal is, "Wait for me to come back." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.